We bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Donald Trump claims President Zelensky is ready to negotiate.
Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible.
Well, it comes as reports suggest America's NATO membership hangs in the balance.
With rumours swirling, the Prime Minister is preparing to return to Washington to present a peace plan for Ukraine.
MPs condemn J.D. Vance after he appeared to disregard the British Armed Forces, saying Britain hasn't fought a war in 40 years. Here's what Nigel Farage had to say to that.
J.D. Vance is wrong. Wrong. For 20 years in Afghanistan, pro rata, our size against America's, we spent the same amount of money, we put the same number of men and women in, and we suffered the same losses. We stood by America all through those 20 years, putting in exactly the same contribution. And all right, they may be 6 times bigger, but we did our bit. So on this one.
Farmers in crisis 4 in 10 now say they expect to go out of business in the next 5 years.
Viewers dub Meghan Markle fake following the release of her new cooking show on Netflix. We're asking this morning, can she ever change the public perception of her?
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Leave school at 14, that's what the Scottish Conservatives are proposing in a bid to give young people more opportunities. What do you think?
Lent begins. Millions around the world start 40 days of reflection and sacrifice. We're asking this morning, what are you giving up?
And plagued by seagulls, residents in a place called Altham are forced to take cover on bin day over fears they could be splattered by excrement.
Nice choice of words. And in sports, great win for Aston Villa away in the Champions League. Even greater win for Arsenal away in the Champions League. And Emma Raducanu has talked about her harrowing ordeal at the Dubai Open.
Big differences once again up and down the UK through today. Wet and windy in the far north, dry and sunny in the far south. Full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
It's a Wednesday morning, halfway through the week. A very good morning to you, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Yeah. Debris, bins, birds. Well, it's not. Are you plagued with seagulls?
No, but I have been hit by one of them. I tell you what.
Ooh, I bet that
they're pretty. They come down pretty fast, and it's quite big as well.
It's big.
When you
big.
feel,
aren't their wings like concrete? Or is that geese?
That's your albatross, isn't it? Or is that your goose as well?
I think it might be a geese.
Okay.
Have wings like concrete, but I guess seagulls would as well. They're very big.
Yes, they are very big.
Yeah.
I think we're far too tolerant of seagulls.
Do you think so?
They're flying rats, really, aren't they?
Well, they are. They've got a law onto their own, especially if you go down to Southend, they steal your chips They steal your ice cream cone.
I'd put it to you, they'll steal your chips in Blackpool and so many other places as well, just wherever they get a chance to do that. So there's that tip in Altham, and it's just overtaking the local town because they just can do what they want there.
Has this been more recent? Because the amount of stories we seem to hear now about, oh, it starts off with like a funny story about someone that gets attacked by this seagull, and then it all starts getting a little worse, and now we're seeing, are they more than they used to be, or are they worse behaved?
I think
are they not as well behaved as they used to be?
They're brazen.
They are.
They're bigger, they're better fed, they're more confident in the environment that they're in.
They've got no fear.
They'll be taking over the country next, I'll tell you, those seagulls.
And it would...
it is like the birds, exactly.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you have experience of birds, of seagulls in particular, let us know what you think should be done about them, OK? We're going to be discussing that today. We're also going to be discussing, they're indulging in all those things, and we're going to discuss, Ellie, we're not going to indulge in with this being Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday, and I am on day 1 of no sugar for Lent.
Why?
Because it's Lent.
But why sugar?
Showed discipline.
Oh.
So I had lots of sugar yesterday, you'll be glad to know.
Yeah.
I had nice chocolate-covered pretzels, that was nice. And I had lots of pancakes with lemon and sugar. But that's it now. 40 days and 40 nights. I'm going to give it a go. I've never actually successfully completed a Lent, you know.
Have you not?
I once tried to do no carbohydrates, and then I accidentally ordered a sagaloo about 2 weeks in, which is just potato.
Being Irish is amazing when everybody talks about, I'll be giving up the drink. I'll not be having any drink, but except for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And then it's my birthday on this day.
You've got to have dispensations, I feel.
Yeah.
We only just get half to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Well, you're going to give a New Year. All right, I want somebody to do this, and then we go again.
So what are you doing for Lent?
I'm not going to do anything.
You could also add something, like do something charitable.
Do you think so?
For 40 days, 40
OK,
days,
right. Or probably, if it was going to be anything, I'd have to cut down on the chocolate. I've got to cut down on the chocolate.
That's a really
so I think I've got a problem.
Eamonn, what are you doing?
I am going to attend church more.
Are you?
And by that I mean not on a Sunday, I mean on other days during the week and things like that.
Oh, you're going to go to, like, confession and stuff?
I do go to confession.
Do you?
I would, not that I have much to confess, but anyway, I'll be getting my ashes today. You getting your ashes today?
I probably should get my ashes today, yeah.
It's very good. You see, the priest puts his hand in the ash, and then he puts a cross on your forehead like that. Or shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I'm going to have a nice white mark, aren't I?
But yeah,
I don't understand. This is
it's a very Catholic thing, isn't it?
OK, fine.
But yeah, it used to have. So I went to a convent school, and we used to have to walk around with the ashes on our foreheads.
Yeah, it shows that you're Christian, and here we are at the the start of Lent, and where you have to abstain, as you say, for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, and if you rubbed those ashes off, you'd be in trouble.
So you would walk. I'm sorry, I'm maybe
walk around all day with a black mark on your head. Yeah.
Are you a complete pagan? Aren't you?
I think I must be.
You've never done this in your life.
No, absolutely not.
Anyway, so Ash Wednesday today, people. Let us know if you want to go get your ashes.
Ash Wednesday.
I thought it was to do with cigarettes. I had no idea. I was giving up the fags. I thought that's what it was.
Let us know what you're giving up for Lent. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Wherever you are, go in peace to love and serve the Lord. 7 minutes past 6 o'clock. Now, breaking overnight, President Trump, he got up, it was the State of the Nation address, and he spent 100 minutes talking about America and all the things that were wrong. And I have to say, Ellie, I found some of it very, very amusing, quite frightening, but he did present it in an amusing way because it is all this business of waste and wokeness and whatever. And he certainly seems to be taking it on.
Well, if you think it's only been 6 weeks and he could stand there for, as you say, 100 minutes and reel off everything that he was working on.
Yeah.
It was impressive, if you think of it
and I
like
think
that.
he could have reeled off more if he'd have wanted to. He also said that President Zelensky is willing to sign a deal with America on those minerals.
Well, this morning, the Mail Online are also reporting that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine.
It's also reported the president is planning to relinquish leadership of NATO, instead urging Britain and France to step forward and take more responsibility.
Well, as we were saying, in the past few hours, the president gave that address to US Congress. GB News' Evan Dale has the latest.
America is back.
It was always going to be an address made for the media.
And our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
But moments into the speech, it was interrupted by Democrat Representative Al Green. It then wasn't long before the president took aim towards the previous administration.
And under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In the midst of reeling off his administration's progress to date, he hailed the beginning of a revolution.
Free speech in America, it's back. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world.
President Trump also brought up the contentious issue of tariffs.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one.
He also announced plans for a defense dome similar to that of Israel.
I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland.
And then came the news on Ukraine that everybody was waiting for.
Today I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
Donald Trump also made a teenage brain cancer survivor's dream come true.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Evan Dale, GB News.
A bit of humanity intermingled with that speech, and along with lots of serious things about not sharing intelligence with Ukraine. Freddie Gray's with us now in the studio, and Freddie, I thought where he was good, he talks about a common sense revolution, and whether you're for Donald Trump generally or against him, it's very hard to argue against some of the areas where he shows big donations are being made for really ridiculously stupid causes.
Yes, he's on the winning side of the argument here, and the polls suggest that's the case. His approval rating is growing to its highest ever levels, and it was a sort of triumphant moment from him. He had to make it the longest, didn't he? Had to be record-breakingly long.
Yeah. He didn't look as if he was running out of steam either.
He doesn't. I mean, he is extraordinarily energetic for a man of his age. I think probably the biggest story of the night was the behaviour of the Democrats, who were really acting like silly children. Holding up signs, booing that lovely boy suffering from cancer. They didn't applaud that moment even. It's almost as if they're on a mission to make themselves as unpopular as possible. Mm-hmm. And really what that speaks to is the way that Donald Trump, through this sort of massive bombardment of executive orders, dramatic moves and so on, he's left them completely wrong-footed. And obviously there's a long way...
they're on the wrong side of the argument, you think, when you poll public opinion on this?
Yes, I mean, they're on the side of the argument of spending government taxpayer money on completely ridiculous woke projects. They're very anti-Elon Musk. There is some concern on the public about Elon Musk's role, but at the moment, people just see this waste and they see it being cut, and they like that. Donald Trump is a very, very effective politician, and the sooner the Democrats come to terms with that, the better off they'll be.
Well, you can see that he's an effective politician, can't you? Bearing in mind that he's only been president for the second time for 6 weeks, and he could speak for 90 minutes about what he's achieved so far and what he's looking to achieve. Talking about the Democrats, a number of them walked out at the mention of Ukraine, and President Trump was talking about a letter from Zelensky, which it looks as though Sir Keir Starmer had quite a heavy hand in helping him with yesterday, where Zelensky praised his strong leadership and said he's ready to sign that minerals deal. Do you reckon that will happen soon?
Well, it looks as though it's back on. I mean, it's been this ridiculous drama. But this is the thing with Donald Trump. When you look past all the sort of diplomatic theatrics, the ridiculous temper tantrum in the Oval Office on Friday, the realities don't really change. He's pushing Ukraine and Russia towards peace, and both of them are coming close to accepting it. Zelensky yesterday folded. He had to fold because without American backing, Ukraine's going to lose this war. And I think the thing that people are getting wrong about this whole argument is they are confusing peace and justice. They think it's not fair on the Ukrainians that this is happening to them. It's not fair that they have to accept this. But peace isn't the same as justice, and peace is a good and noble goal, I believe, and Donald Trump is pushing towards that.
But many people don't want to see surrender of Ukraine to Russia.
Well, yes, the argument against surrender would be that it's appeasement and that Vladimir Putin will come back for more. But the argument against that would be, what if Vladimir Putin wins this war, despite Western efforts to stop him, which at the moment it looks as though he will do.
Well, certainly help him if the United Kingdom withholds intelligence information destined for Ukraine, which America is not asking them to do, telling them to do.
It's an order that, yeah, which is very interesting, because I think a lot of American intelligence officials are frustrated with British intelligence for sharing too quickly, sharing too readily with Ukraine details, information that it wants to hold. And this shows a very interesting change between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. The Trump administration are suspicious of Ukraine. They're suspicious about the blowing up of Nord Stream, the pipeline. And there's something called REL UKR, which means releasable to Ukraine. And that's a certain type of intelligence that Britain had permission to share with Ukraine. That's now been banned. Britain has been banned from doing that. And that, I think, tells you a lot about what the US administration think, not just about Ukraine, but about Britain. We're seen as a slightly unreliable partner. And that's bad news, because Britain takes great pride in our part of the Five Eyes, intelligence sharing. We're a key ally to America on that front. That is slightly in danger at the moment.
What did you make of JD Vance's comments yesterday? Sparked a row with them, disrespecting the British armed forces by talking about the peacekeeping forces on the ground in Ukraine, obviously been pledged by Britain and by France, saying that we're random countries that haven't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
Well, there's a lot to like about JD Vance. He's very for free speech, but he does have this unfortunate habit of shooting his mouth off in an unpleasant way. I think what his comment on that Fox News interview, he's since clarified that he did not mean Britain or France.
They're the only countries that pledged.
But it's very hard to know who exactly he meant. I think the really interesting question for JD Vance to answer is, when did America last win a war? Not since the Second World War has America won a significant conflict. And actually, that's the real story here, because JD Vance himself served in Iraq, as did Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defence, as did Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of Intelligence. And they all served at a low level. They weren't senior commanders in these wars. And they've learned the hard way that America can't actually change the world in whatever way it wants to. And that has reshaped their whole attitude towards this conflict. It's reshaped their whole attitude towards Ukraine, to Russia, and so on. We're entering a far more realistic phase of American diplomacy. Yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
See, Freddie, talking about reshaping, this common sense revolution, which he talks about, I think that's got legs. And whether it would ever be introduced in the United Kingdom or not, I doubt it would be. But I really do think we would benefit from it. And when politicians talk about we're broke, we haven't got any money to spend, Trump stands up and he gives that list of things, ridiculous things, which are being funded by huge amounts of money, and he's putting an end to it overnight. No debate, the way we would have the hand-wringing and angst and whatever in this country. But do you think we would benefit from a common-sense revolution in the United Kingdom?
Absolutely we would. I think a lot of British voters look at what Trump's doing with Doge and the slashing of absurd, wasteful spending, and they think, I wish we had something like that. Sadly, we don't. We have a Labour government that seems committed to wasteful spending. Some might argue that there's an opportunity now, with America pulling back from the world, for Britain to really step up and be a soft power force in the world. But we don't really have the money to do it. And what little money we do have, we seem to be wasting, often on very frivolous projects.
Yeah. But I always maintain we do have the money. It's just we spend it in strange areas and we use it all up.
Well, we do have the money. We don't have kind of American spending power.
No.
But we are wasting it in very strange ways. We're running something called the Spectator Project Against Frivolous Funding, or SPAF, for short. And we've uncovered some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, for instance, we've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds last year helping mental health cases in Canada. Canada has a lot of money. Why are we doing that?
Why are we
when we've got a mental health crisis back here in Britain?
Yeah.
So, yes, we are extremely wasteful, and some sort of major audit of our government spending would be great.
And I do have this thing, the older I get, the more I believe in this. We cannot change the world. We won't make a darn bit of difference to the world, and it won't make a darn bit of difference to us. We should look after ourselves and our own borders, worry about our own household, and not be trying to run everybody else's households.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you're talking about Ash Wednesday. They're good Christian message there.
Yes.
Take the speck out of your own eye.
Freddie Gray, thank you very much indeed. Freddie's going to be here throughout the morning, and if you've got anything to say, remember, have your say. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll put some of those points, whether you agree or disagree with what Freddie is having to say. What would you cut back on, for instance?
Well, the Green Initiative going to India, which is millions of pounds, we saw the other day, didn't we? India has its own space programme.
Yeah,
so that's a very interesting one.
Absolutely.
But you've probably heard of your own, so let us know what you think.
As Freddie was saying there, Canada, so mental health's a great thing to tackle, but here in the UK...
We have a crisis, don't we?
We've got a crisis. What are we worrying about what's going on in Canada for? Not our problem. The time coming up to 6:20. A very good morning to you on this Wednesday morning, on your radio, on your television, online. You're tuned in to GB News Breakfast.
And let's have a look at some other stories coming to the newsroom this morning. And a 16-year-old boy has been shot in South London near Stockwell Tube Station. Paramedics were called to the scene late afternoon yesterday, but the teenager was pronounced dead on arrival. The police are now appealing for information.
The NHS could offer over 50s a single pill per day to replace health checks every 5 years. Experts believe it could prevent thousands of heart attacks and strokes. According to the British Medical Journal, it could reduce these conditions by a third.
Elsewhere, the Scottish Tories have put forward plans to lower the school leaving age to 14. It's in a bid to improve opportunities for youngsters. The party's leader said it would give teenagers a fast track to apprenticeship. If carried out, it would be the lowest school leaving age in Europe.
Ridiculous idea, leave school at 14.
Young.
No, it's ridiculous. It just says ridiculous. I agree with apprenticeships. I agree with putting people and letting them think this is a noble, honourable thing to do and all that. But you have to at least stay to 16, and it will be for your own good. The thing is, if you hate school at the minute, you think, I can't wait to get out of this, you're wrong. You're wrong. They will actually be the best years of your life, and it is what you make of them. Yeah. But you need a basic preparation in terms of how cultured you are, for instance, what knowledge you have in your head to just fire you up for the rest of your life from 16 onwards. And believe me, that will go very, very quickly. 2 more years at school and maybe part-time, saying to people, giving them a couple of classes a week, which introduces them to apprenticeships, might be a good idea.
A hybrid system, maybe.
And I do believe, controversially, being in school and in 2025, reciting, learning, memorising Shakespeare is not right for everybody. It's not. What is the blooming point of it? What is the point of it? Have you ever used it? What we have to learn in mathematics, whatever. Does it enter your life? Not necessarily. So there's certain subjects you can look and you can say, I don't need to do that and that, and I do need to learn about,
taxes,
IT and taxes and all sorts of things like that, I suppose.
How to apply for a mortgage, things like that.
Yeah.
Life lessons.
Life lessons.
Be handy, wouldn't it?
Prepare people for the world ahead. Your views, again, very welcome. Have your say.
Now let's get a check on the weather, shall we, with Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, Western England and Western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, look, here we are, Ash Wednesday today, the start of Lent, and we're going to take a break now. And when we come back, we have these films on reflection for those of you who believe in Lent and who are beginning Lent today for the next 6 weeks. Back with that after this.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I know. So, Chef Theo Michaels joins us in the studio to talk about this. We know we've got a problem with food waste in this country, Theo, but this idea that there's a younger generation who are just reading the back of a packet and going, well, that must have gone off then, throwing it in the bin. Why do they do that when maybe we wouldn't?
Do you know what? I think we live in an increasingly sanitised, bubble-wrapped world, right, where we've become detached from our food, we've become detached from using a bit of common sense. And so I think there's a generation that are doing exactly this. They're looking at a best before date to start with, which actually is meaningless. Best before date is me turning around to you two going, the fish should be at its prime on Tuesday, right? Yeah. But that's not the use-by date. The use-by date could be a week later. You know, we say the sniff test. That's what we should be doing. So I've had it before. I had a great experience once. I walked into a supermarket and I saw an Italian guy I know, and he was jumping around with so much excitement as he was collecting handfuls of Parmesan cheese that they said, oh, it was going out of date. And he was laughing, so he was going, we age this stuff for years. Yes. It doesn't go out of date. Yeah. So he was buying it by the truckload. And I think the key thing is there is this sort of sniff test that people talk about, but it's absolutely right. It's ingrained in us. It's instinctive that if we smell something that's off, it's like giving someone a dose of salts.
I'm also wondering, with these dates on these packaging, did it actually do a favour to the supermarkets because it meant that you're throwing them away and buying less?
100%.
Buying more.
The use-by dates only came out in the 70s, right? And that was done by one particular supermarket. And for me, I can't help be cynical about it, Bev. Who was it? It was Marks and Spencer's.
Was it?
Marks and Spencer's in the 70s.
They all followed suit.
And yet...
They all followed suit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, wherever you're watching from, wherever you're listening from. This is GB News Breakfast. Eamonn and Ellie here.
As Christians across the world observe Lent, we are going to be bringing you daily reflections from ministers around the United Kingdom. And here is day one.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Welcome to St Michael's Church in New Haven. My name's Marcus Mack. What is wrong with the human race? Why can't we just get along without causing each other so much suffering? Jesus gives us some insights in Matthew chapter 15, verse 19. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. It is easy to point the finger and blame those people over there, but the problem with the world is the problem with our hearts. Today is Ash Wednesday, and it marks the beginning of Lent. It is a season marked by an attitude of remorseful self-examination in light of a holy God, to admit our need for forgiveness and a new heart. During an Ash Wednesday service, many churches will mark people with ash, a sign of a cross. It symbolizes our mortality while reminding us that forgiveness and eternal life come through the cross of Christ. The following words usually accompany this moment. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Turn away from sin and be faithful to Christ.
That was
And
Reverend
remember,
Marcus Mack.
You are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Thank you.
I know, very good. You could have been, you make a lovely priest.
You would make a lovely
The
priest.
college I went to, for grammar school, 10% of us were expected to enter the priesthood.
Right.
Did you ever feel any pressure to be a priest?
Yeah.
Did you?
Quite a lot.
You'd make a good priest, you know.
I would, you're
You're
right.
wise, Al.
I would make a good priest, but it'd have to be at least a Monsignor.
Oh, yeah.
It just couldn't be an ordinary
And then you'd have to
parish
go for
priest.
cardinal.
Well, why not?
And eventually, obviously, Pope. Eventually.
Now that I would like.
Yes, you would have thought. But there was a wing in my school, and therefore people then would get to say O-level year 16 or so, and then they would go into the wing for their A-level, so they would stay and they would live and they would be trained then as priests.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they'd go to university and whatever else.
See, I always wondered why, whenever Eamonn walks into the building here, white smoke comes up from the top of... Now it all makes perfect sense to me.
I'm able to look at Martin O'Neill, the football manager,
Yes.
right? Irish football manager, and Leicester City, Norwich City, Wycombe Wanderers, all those things. But Martin has a priestly way about him, because him and I went to the same school together, and I can tell the way he talks and looks and does certain things. It means nothing to you, but it does.
Well, no, don't say that, because he would have been the 10% and you were part of the 90. You were part of the other.
Well,
90
he didn't go either. But I mean, I'm saying it rubs off on you.
Right, I've got you.
What's rubbed off on you today?
What's rubbed off on me today?
Yes.
Well, rubbed me up the wrong way. Listen, I tell you what's rubbed off on me.
What?
And that's Arsenal last night.
Right, what a win!
What is going on?
Yeah.
I mean, Arsenal can't score goals. They're having terrible trouble scoring goals. They've lost. I mean, they've scored twice in the last 4. And the last 2 games they haven't scored any. And then they go to the Netherlands
PSV.
and they score 7. PSV. By the way, you know what the P stands for?
No.
Philips.
As in the electronics?
Philips Sporting Club.
So as in the electronics
That's
company?
right, yeah. Because that's where they are, so that's where the P...
Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like Philips Sporting Club. So anyway, so Arsenal go away, and then they score 7. You've got young Ethan Nwaneri, 17 years old, and they were just magnificent. I mean, don't get me wrong, PSV weren't great. They played a lot of space. Arsenal were given lots of space to play. But to go away and score 7, and also that's the most... And nobody has ever scored 7 in a knockout stage away in a Champions League game before.
Yeah, wouldn't argue with it. Villa go down to Club Brugge. Sorry, they didn't.
That's right.
That was one of
well, they won. They did win.
3-1 up, 3-1.
Yeah, they won at Club Brugge. Although... I don't know whether Villa fans would agree with me, but maybe Club Brugge were the better side on the night. But
who cares if you win 3-1?
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying how it was, but I mean, it doesn't matter because Aston Villa did win 3-1, although Tyrone Mings, this is interesting because Tyrone Mings, when they played there earlier in the season, he gave away this ridiculous penalty when he picked up the ball. I don't know if you remember that, in the penalty box, just picked it up, and it was like, well, what are you doing? So a penalty was given, although it was really from zero to hero again because he made a clearance at 1-1, which was magnificent off the ball, right off the line. So then Aston Villa scored another couple. So they're both looking good. Going into the next round.
Liverpool, what chance do they have against PSG tonight?
Always very good, PSG. So that's in Paris tonight, first of this, and they will go forward. I think they'll be fine. I really do. If they can get away with a draw, they'll be fine. Getting back to Anfield next week, I can't see a problem there. I really can't.
Now, Ellie, Jack Grealish, who plays for Manchester City, I always think that, I think he's a good lad.
He comes across as a good boy, doesn't he?
Lovely calves.
Well,
he has.
He's also very generous, it would seem.
He is very generous.
On social media. He went to a social club in Manchester, didn't he, yesterday?
Actually, he was up in the northeast. He was up in Tyne and Wear. So this was Sunday. So he started in Manchester. See, why would he? See, we were talking about transfers in Manchester City, weren't we, between the two of us earlier? And the fact that there's going to be a lot of players that are going to leave. There are players that have passed their sell-by date.
Well, heavy rumours doing the rounds on social media that Jack Grealish has been told to find a new club in the summer transfer window, as has Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, the story is that he's gone up to visit Jordan Pickford's brother up in the northeast, who's a mate of his, and being just thinking, well, why would he be going up there? Newcastle, possibly? Is he interested in going to Newcastle? I don't know. But anyway, went to the social club, North Diddick Social Club in Washington, Tyne and Wear. Have we got pictures of? I think we've got pics of Jack up there. Word spread as soon as he went in, and Jack was there, and everybody starts phoning. That's not at the social club, by the way. That is somewhere else. That's actually him on the pitch. But anyway, 500 quid. 500 quid he put behind the bar.
Well, we've had an update on that, Quitty.
Oh.
So this on social media, someone who was there said, update, Grealish actually put £2,000 behind the bar. Apparently there was still money left. And £1,000 into a bingo prize money draw.
See,
top bloke.
But the thing is, it's nothing as far as he's concerned because he's so rich. But that's not the point. The point is he did it. Everybody loved him, and it's only about £2.80 for a pint as well.
Okay, good. Some good stories there, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Final week to see how you could win one of two amazing prize bundles in the Great British Giveaway. Good luck.
There's just 2 days left to grab your chance to become one of 2 big winners, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Going through the newspapers very, very shortly. We'll take a short break, then we're back with Pat Sharp and Claire Muldoon and the papers after you find out, well, I don't know, are we doing weather now at this stage?
I don't think we are, no.
I don't think we are. Let's not do that. We'll just go and have a nice break. See you after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding in Dundee. The A92 is closed to high-sided vehicles over the Tay Road Bridge because of strong winds. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed in both directions between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire on the A74M, the northbound exit to the A75. but junction 22 is closed. Now, on the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound after an accident between junctions 9 and 8 towards the M5 near Birmingham, causing queues. Also in the West Midlands, Walsall Road at Stone Cross in West Bromwich is closed for emergency repairs to a burst water main. In Leicestershire, the A426 is closed along Alston Road at Alston in Leicester for water main repairs. Trains have been stopped between Leicester and both Nottingham and Derby after a train broke down. And in Cambridgeshire, the A428 is closed between Elterslie and Caxton Gibbet after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back at 6:40.
Yeah, good. Here's another thing. Pat Sharp and Claire Muldoon are here to talk about stories in the news today. Here's a story here. I'm fit. Everything I go to eat has been, what's the term you use? Shrinked.
Oh, Claire,
everything. I was eating McCoy's crisps last night.
Oh yeah, you like those?
Well, except they're so small now. They're so small. The bags are so small. Everything.
Chocolate bars.
Chocolate,
anything.
crisps,
a Mars bar. Have you seen a Mars bar these days?
Tiny.
Tiny.
It used to help you work, rest and play. Now it's...
Yeah. I think, Pat, we have to be our sort of age to remember what these chocolate bars used to be like. Easter eggs used to be huge. Easter eggs used to be so big and so hard that they would break your teeth eating into them. But either that or I was only 5 at the time and had all those...
things have definitely shrunk.
Milk teeth. Oh, it's ridiculous. But anyway, here's an interesting story, Claire, about Greggs. And what are they doing?
So, Greggs, everyone seems to be on either Mounjaro, Ozempic or Wegovy at the moment. And fat jabs are battering Greggs, the headline is here in The Sun. So bakery chain Greggs is considering smaller portions as a result of that.
So see, this is where it's all lies and nonsense. Why would, if you're being beaten in the consumer stakes with this, why would you then reduce your size? I don't really get that, why one leads to the other.
Well, this is they're now hanging this on less waste, right? But when you go into Greggs, you're either 1, hungover, 2, really need your fix, or 3, on the move and you just fancy it. Let's be honest, Greggs is a staple. That's why they're on every single high street in the country, up and down the country. Motorway services, they're there. So what they have now said is, well, people are getting smaller, get the portions smaller.
People aren't getting smaller, people are getting bigger.
Well, a lot of people might be getting smaller because of the uptake on these jabs.
It's ironic you said
That's
less waste and it puts stuff on your waist, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, they do a nice bacon baguette.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say? It's got me quite hungry this time.
He's got his cheeky face on now.
Pat, tell us about woolly mice.
No, tell us we should stay with health. We should do the pill for the over 50s.
And then promise me we'll get back to the woolly mice.
I'll save woolly mice for the next hour.
Thank you.
Yeah, OK.
OK, we'll talk about this daily pill then for over 50s.
Yeah, so this is maybe important on what Claire just mentioned with the last story. So a single pill, if the NHS can afford to give it to us, for people over 50, so not you. Every... Or you.
No, it does include me, actually. I just wanted to see you squirm.
Oh, it includes me, plus VAT, yes. Yeah.
Don't mention that.
And definitely me. OK. So if we are over 50, a single daily pill will help us instead of a health check every 5 years, because the health check isn't working very well. Uptake is low. Only 4 in 10 people taking up the offer of an appointment. So one pill, which costs 30p a go. Yes.
If we take it now, and if it's been able to be funded right, this would save us, put us in pretty good health for 5 years.
Heart attacks, strokes. It's got 3 blood pressure lowering drugs in it and a statin as well. So it just does the trick instead of having an appointment.
It's a magic pill.
Yeah.
I don't trust anything like that, to be honest with you.
Sounds a bit too good.
Yeah, so if 2 in 5 people, right, over 50 are actually taking up the health checks, right? I didn't even know they had health checks for over 50s for a start. Then if you take this pill for 5 years, who's checking the progress of that pill? Who says you have got high... What if you don't have high blood pressure? What if the Venn diagram of high blood pressure, the need to reduce cholesterol for the statin, or anything else, what if you don't hit the target of that Venn diagram and you don't have lots of other things? I think 30p for an all-fit, all pill is a really bad thing, actually.
Claire, let's have a look at this story in the Daily Mail, shall we? Well, actually, it's all across
It's in all of
this
them.
morning. Meghan's make or break TV rebrand.
This is just one of the most narcissistic women, I think, on the planet. And I think she's one of the most narcissistic plagiarists as well. Everything I have seen so far... And for full reporting here, I've not actually seen it, but I've listened to and I've read lots and lots and lots about it. And it's just one of these things that she will just go on forever and ever and ever. She seems to have taken recipes from Instagram pages, and she's now saying, even if you're in a small London flat, you can still do what I can do in my rented accommodation.
Does she do? That's the thing. I mean... I always look at her and I see her as an actress, and that is sort of what she does.
Well,
but anyway, judge for yourself.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now. You have kids, and you go, no, I share my name with my children. It's a real delight in being able to be a present parent, and it's a luxury sometimes because we all have to work. We all have a lot of stuff to do. It's good, right?
You did a great job.
Thank you. This feels like a new chapter that I'm so excited that I get to share. All of that is just part of that creativity that I've missed so much.
You don't identify with that back garden or kitchen there or what?
No, and I really don't. And I don't think she is...
Sharp's got a house like that.
I wish.
I don't think that she is rebranding herself to deliver the identity that she said that she had when she was marrying the Prince Harry. You know, she was very much for young African women, young women of colour across the States and in Africa when they did that tour. That smacks absolutely nothing of that to me. Does her mother even make an appearance? You know, there is just so much going on there. I think it's so fake, it's so phony, and I think it's all an act because, as you quite rightly said, she's an actress.
Pal, have you seen it?
No, I haven't. And
Will you see it? Will you watch it?
I thought we were meant to call everyone actors now, not actresses.
Oh, you're probably
true.
I believe so. But either way, I haven't seen it, no.
If you've seen it, let us have your view. I would look forward to that.
All I've seen is the rainbow platter of fruit, which probably cost about 30 grand worth of fruit. I mean, it's huge. I can't see normal, everyday parents putting that together.
No, not at all.
OK. Right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break. We're going to have a look at where the sun is shining around Europe if you're looking for a bit of an escape. Back after this.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst high pressure in the south of the UK brings sunshine, it will turn increasingly unsettled for Iberia, although mostly fine for Italy and for much of Greece, albeit with a keen breeze through the Greek islands into Thursday. There'll also be a freshening breeze through Sicily and some outbreaks of rain turning up here. But the most unsettled weather will be Iberia, particularly Portugal, through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Some heavy downpours, thunderstorms and strengthening winds.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I do think that there is extremities in how this has been approached with, you can't eat kebabs anymore. The Climate Change Committee isn't talking about banning meat. It's talking about reducing meat, perhaps having some incentives for plant-based diets. It's talking about doing small changes, not phasing out everything, doing small changes to move to a net zero future, a more sustainable future.
How can me not having a large dollar combat, I don't know, China opening one coal-fired power station a week? Come on, this is pointless.
Well, there is other things that have been advised beyond just, reducing our meat consumption. There's things around the tax around flying and aviation, producing less fossil fuel imports and switching to more renewable power, upgrading the grid. There's a lot of other advisories collectively that moves us towards a net zero future. There is a few, of course, we can go down the route of, they can't eat the kebab anymore, but there's far more other things at play than just the kebab meat.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump, that man again, is just laughing at all this. Drill, baby, drill. You're not telling me that his cabinet are going to chow down on some quinoa. This is a red meat country leading the way, and if we had half a brain about us, we'd be drilling ourselves.
I come from an energy industry background. I work for a data intelligence company, Mapstand, as well. And what we are seeing is that what's happening in America is actually quite short-term thinking. It's not long-term thinking. Whereas in places in China, you're seeing a lot of innovation and green innovation because there is a huge economic opportunity.
Yeah, because they're selling it all to the West and polluting their atmosphere. We're offshoring our carbon footprint, and they're selling the solar panels back to us because we're the mugs.
We're also able to be the producers and also change our own energy so that we can also compete.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers with Claire Muldoon and Pat Sharp. Morning, you two.
Morning.
Morning. And Claire, let's look at this one in the Daily Mail, shall we? Strike fears.
Every time we see a headline like this, I have to ask the question, are we at all surprised? And this is on the day after that train fares, TfL fares have all gone up. And why have they gone up? Because the Labour government caved to the unions when they took over the helm of number 10 Downing Street. And who are the ones that have to pay? Us, the consumers. We're paying all the time.
Claire, of all the things we can argue about, whatever, why not treating people properly at work? Why not job security? Things that actually would affect you, could affect you in the workplace out there. If things would improve, why would you not be in favour of something that strengthens your job and your rights?
I'll tell you why. This is toppling on the fact that the private sector is on its knees. We need the private sector for growth. We need the private sector to drive things through.
as little as possible.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I would say, and I've always been an advocate of getting rid of zero-hour contracts, but when you put so much money into the public sector, where you can't get rid of people that can't do their jobs properly, where you do have train drivers that are holding the consumer and holding the public to account, that's where the difficulty for me is. Train drivers, the minimum they get is something like £60,000 a year. That's double the national average for a wage per annum. That's huge. Teachers now are, you know, they are really hard-pressed in their jobs. They've got terrible things to have to deal with, yes, but get rid of the bureaucracy, get rid of the admin, let teachers teach.
Do Donald Trump, where he's talking about common sense revolution.
I wish we had someone like Donald Trump in this country to run it. I really do. Instead of the namby-namby lefty elites that say, we'll give you everything you want. And it's very, very dangerous, and it sends out a really dangerous signal to the trades unions that the government is on their side. I'm sorry, but it's difficult for every single one of us out there.
It is.
It's not easy.
And Pat, you look at somebody like you or any of us around this table and the jobs that we do without protection, really, without protection all these years, and you just have to be harder, I suppose, to get through.
Yeah, I suppose so, in a way. I mean, I'm thinking about what would I think about my job as a DJ and a radio guy and doing live gigs and stuff. Yeah. Tricky.
But I bet you've never taken a day sick, and you're never off, and you'd never cancel.
Exactly. Keep working.
Okay?
A bit like Aidan McGivern, he's never off.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, western England and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dundee, the A92 Tay Road Bridge is closed each way to high-sided vehicles because of strong wind. Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed in both directions between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. Trains have been stopped between Retford and Newark Northgate because of a level crossing problem. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound after an accident between junctions 9 and 8 towards the M5 near Birmingham, causing queues. In Leicestershire, the A426 is closed into Leicester at Ayleston for emergency repair. A couple of problems in Cambridgeshire. The A47 is closed along the Soap Parkway in Peterborough between junctions 15 and 18 for an investigation. And the A428 is closed eastbound from Elstree to Caxton Gibbet after accident and fuel spill. And trains have been stopped between Grays and Upminster because of a signalling problem. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump claims President Zelensky is ready to negotiate.
Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible.
All of this coming as reports suggest America's NATO membership hangs in the balance.
With rumours swirling, the Prime Minister is preparing to return to Washington to meet his counterpart this week in a bid to bridge the transatlantic divide.
MPs condemned JD Vance after he appeared to disregard British armed forces, saying Britain hasn't fought a war in 40 years. Nigel Farage reacted like this.
JD Vance is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. For 20 years in Afghanistan, pro rata, our size against America's, we spent the same amount of money, we put the same number of men and women in, and we suffered the same losses. We stood by America all through those 20 years, putting in exactly the same contribution. And all right, they may be 6 times bigger, but we did our bit. So on this one, JD is wrong.
Farmers in crisis. 4 in 10 farmers now say they expect to go out of business in the next 5 years.
Viewers dubbed Meghan Markle fake following the release of her new cooking show. Can she ever change public perception?
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Elsewhere, the Scottish Tories called to lower the school leaving age to 14. It's in a bid to give young people more opportunities.
Ash Wednesday today, and Lent begins. Millions of people around the world start 40 days of reflection and sacrifice as Christians. What are you giving up?
And a community plagued by seagulls. Residents in Altham are forced to take cover on Bin Day over fears they could be splattered by bird excrement, let's say.
So I smile every time. And in the sport, it's safe to say that Arsenal will be through to the last 8 of the Champions League after beating PSV 7-1 in Eindhoven last night. After landing in hot water, Liverpool's Arne Slot has vowed not to lose his temper again as they play PSG in Paris this evening. And Emma Raducanu said yesterday that she couldn't see the ball through tears after her stalking ordeal at the Dubai Open.
Big differences once again up and down the UK through today. Wet and windy in the far north, dry and sunny in the far south. Full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
Thanks for tuning in. A very good morning to you as we're halfway through the week. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So I immediately sat there and thought, we'll definitely talk about this at the top of the hour. That was 30 seconds ago. I've now forgotten what I was going to talk about.
Was it Lent? Was it giving up stuff? Was it JD Vance? Was it Tommy Vance? Was it any JD or...
Who was Tommy Vance?
Tommy Vance. Yeah, I remember Tommy Vance. And also, I worked with Tommy Vance. Tommy Vance was great, the rock DJ.
Oh.
Do you remember he passed away about 10 years ago.
Did he?
But I worked with Tommy Vance and he had this voice that would talk like this. And I remember I worked for Virgin Radio at the time and we were sitting around it. We had this meeting that had all different people from all different parts of the company, and we had to introduce ourselves to each other, although we knew each other. And he got to me, I said, I'm Paul, and he stood there and he sat there and he had a Twisted Sister T-shirt and his glasses and he said, my name's Tommy Vance and I've been the deepest voice in radio for the past 40 years. And it was magnificent. That was what Tommy Vance was all about.
Yeah, very good.
So still the most famous Vance as far as I'm concerned.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Seagulls.
Yeah, law onto their own.
Shoot them.
They have no fear.
Do you know I was moved out of a holiday villa once in Portugal because seagulls were nesting in the chimney. And it was me who had to move, not them.
Oh,
That's
no.
the way it was.
Were you upgraded, though?
No.
Oh.
They had priority. The rule was you hadn't to disturb them in any way.
Well, that's where it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
You've given them priority.
See, they've taken liberties, haven't they? That's what they've done.
Now, what's this place called?
Altham, isn't it?
Where is Altham?
Great question.
So pass on that. Everybody pass on that. Nobody knows where Altham is. But if you follow the birds and the...
It's a village in Lancashire, England.
Is it?
It's 4 miles west of Burnley.
4 miles west of...
Burnley.
Burnley, oh.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's on the A678, Blackburn to Burnley Road.
And you've got something to say about what's going on there. Well, that's like a Hitchcock film.
Can you imagine what the noise is like as well? The squawking and the flapping.
Do they come out at night?
And that's the owls.
Yeah. So you don't see or hear seagulls at night?
You don't know.
No.
So Altham, just reading here, first of all, it's got a beautiful church, medieval church there. And the name Altham comes from the Old English name for River Meadows of the Swans.
Ah. Oh, the swans are long gone.
Swans are long gone. Yeah. Seagulls now.
Forget that. Breaking news overnight. President Trump has confirmed that the Ukrainian president is willing to sign that deal with America on minerals.
And this morning, the Mail Online are also reporting that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine.
It's also reported he is planning to relinquish leadership of NATO, instead urging Britain and France to take up more responsibility there. Now, in the past few hours, the president gave an address to Congress. GB News' Evan Dale has the latest.
America is back.
It was always going to be an address made for the media.
And our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
But moments into the speech, it was interrupted by Democrat Representative Al Green. It then wasn't long before the president took aim towards the previous administration.
And under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In the midst of reeling off his administration's progress to date, he hailed the beginning of a revolution.
Free speech in America, it's back. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world.
President Trump also brought up the contentious issue of tariffs.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one.
He also announced plans for a defense dome similar to that of Israel.
I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland.
And then came the news on Ukraine that everybody was waiting for.
Today I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
Donald Trump also made a teenage brain cancer survivor's dream come true.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Evan Dale, GB News.
Casting his eye over everything, we're delighted to welcome into the studio the deputy editor of The Spectator, that is Freddie Gray. Freddie, good to see you. If you were a judge on America's Got Talent or whatever, how would you rate Donald Trump and his performance? 100 minutes. 100 minutes.
Record-breaking.
It is.
He always has to be record-breaking.
Clinton, who had 90 minutes or 92 minutes before that.
Yeah.
But that was 25 years ago.
Yes. Well, like a lot of Donald Trump things, it was sort of simultaneously fascinating and quite boring in parts. He does go on quite a lot. But I think the real story of last night is the Democrats' reaction. They were petulant. They talk about Donald Trump being divisive, but they're the people booing, hissing, behaving like children. There was this moment where Donald Trump called out to this boy who has cancer. They didn't even stand up and applaud that. It's not a good look for the Democrats.
They also seem to be out of touch with the way people are thinking. Whereas when Trump was elected, it would have been quite a split vote, really, on that. But he talks about this common sense revolution, and he seems to be scoring points with that.
Yes, it's extremely. He is conducting a common sense revolution, or at least, some people say it's not actually happening, but in a way, that's irrelevant to the polls because voters feel increasingly that common sense is being put in place in Washington, and that's what voters have been wanting for a long, long time. They're fed up of the US aid waste, which Trump is slashing so violently. They do think Washington bureaucrats are lazy and don't work properly, and that's why they're quite pleased to see them being threatened with firings or actually fired. The polls are showing that Trump his job approval rating, it's still not very high, but it's come from a low base, is rocketing up. Increasing numbers. Trump slightly exaggerated last night and said a majority of Americans now think that America's on the right track. That's not quite true, I think, if you look at the polls. But it's definitely changing. And if he does get a majority of Americans thinking their country is on the right track, that's a hell of a turnaround from 2-3 years ago.
Can we learn anything from what is going on there? I mean, he has this big attack on waste and how money is being squandered. Now, I am just sick and fed up of hearing politicians in this country from whatever party saying we're broke, we don't have any money. I would put it to you, we do have money. It's just being spent all too willy-nilly, too quickly and in the wrong places.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with you, and I think a lot of British voters are looking at what's happening in America, and while they may not necessarily like Donald Trump, they like the attack on waste. It's something voters care a lot about, and a lot of British spending is frivolous and wrong-headed. Last week, Keir Starmer said he was going to reduce the aid budget. He got a bit of a flack from the left of his party on that. But that's actually quite a popular move. I think we all feel that British aid spending doesn't necessarily go towards helping the poorest a lot of the time. It usually goes into the wrong pockets.
When I see natural disasters and things like that and people in war situations, totally get it, totally understand why as a country we should come to their aid and we should help them, whatever. But what do you think, or what is the Spectator's view on spending, a foreign aid budget and being spent the way it is spent on various pop groups in Africa or India or whatever it happens to be?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned The Spectator because that gives me a chance to plug the Spectator Project Against Frivolous Funding, or SPAF, as we're calling it. And that is highlighting, it's an actual search tool you can use on our website. And you can see the most amazingly frivolous spending projects.
Stuff that makes you angry, isn't
Stuff
it?
that makes you angry. I mean, one that made me quite angry last week was the hundreds of thousands of pounds we are sending to Canada to help with their mental health problems.
Canada,
which is a rich...
Asking, I'm sure you've asked this question. What has Canada's mental health problems got to do with us?
Well, I mean, obviously, everybody's mental health problems are a concern, but we have our own.
Mental health is in Venezuela or Canada or wherever.
Well, I mean, we probably should care more about the mental health crisis we have here in the UK, and the lack of funding we have to deal with that. Yes, we are spending lots of money on it, but the scale of the crisis, particularly since the pandemic, is really bad. And yet we're sending lots of money to Canada, which is an extremely rich country, to help with their mental health problems.
You know, I often look back at policies instigated and advocated by Margaret Thatcher, and she had this relatively simple idea that you run the country the way you would run your household, what you can afford, you spend on what you can afford, what you can get, what your household needs, and that's basically it. And I understand that. I can get that. I get that okay. Do you think her ideas would suddenly come back in vogue?
I think they're already back in vogue. In fact, they've never really been out of vogue, I would say.
There's a lot of talk in immigration as well.
Taxpayers have always understood that government spending isn't just, doesn't just come from the sky. It's their money. Eventually, I think sometimes we delude ourselves that if the government intervenes in something, spends massively on something that's important, that's just money that's just drummed out of nowhere. But it's not. Even if it's borrowed, taxpayers will pay for it eventually. Trump's administration sees that. Elon Musk, for all his controversy, sees that too. And that's why their attack on all this waste is very, very popular.
Freddie, can I ask you about today? Because John Healey's going to Washington, Defence Secretary, to meet Pete Hegseth. They're going to be talking about the peace plan for Ukraine, if that's still on the table. And I assume trying to reverse that pause to US military aid to Ukraine as well. Do you think either of those could happen?
I think it's a really interesting moment in British-American relations because in some ways, Keir Starmer is getting things right. He is positioning himself as the bridge between Trump and Europe, particularly on Ukraine. He's going to be the moderating force on Ukraine. He's going to be the person that says to America, yes, it is in your interests to defend Ukraine. And if they get the deal over the line, he will take a lot of credit for that. At the same time, you have growing dissatisfaction and distrust with Britain in America, and particularly among the defence establishment. And that's why you see this interesting story yesterday that America is America is ordering Britain to stop sharing intelligence with Ukraine. And that's a very, very sensitive topic because Britain is very proud of our role as, part of the Five Eyes, important intelligence community. And yet there are clear signs that Washington doesn't quite trust Britain with intelligence, particularly when it comes to Ukraine.
Is the transatlantic alliance over then, in that sense? Because if you don't have trust, what do you have?
Well, quite. There is that danger. I don't think it's over. I mean, Starmer got a very friendly reception with Trump last week. Clearly, Britain wants to work with America and vice versa. The Americans just have concerns about Ukraine. They have bigger concerns about free speech. J.D. Vance has talked about this a lot. They are worried that Britain is going to the dogs. However, it seems like Trump likes Starmer. Whether Starmer can take advantage of that is another question.
Why would America want to give up leadership of NATO?
Well, I think that story's slightly spun. Trump's ambassador to the UN yesterday said that America wants to renew its leadership of NATO. But obviously in the bigger context, America is saying to Europe, if you want NATO to be a force in Europe, you need to spend more on your defence. And I think for a lot of people, me included, that makes sense. It's not just that... I think America will always, because it has such power, it'll always be the leader of NATO,
but
assuming...
it just doesn't want to spend as much as it's been spending.
It doesn't want to spend as much as it's been spending. I mean, some people do think, and I think there's a legitimate debate about this, what is NATO's role in the future? Do we need this alliance that has been formed specifically to combat the Soviet
hang on
Union.
that question. Hopefully we'll get some answers to that as the programme progresses. Freddie, joy talking to you today.
Thanks, Freddie.
Great pleasure.
What you've got to say. And are you back again?
No, I'm not. I'm going to go off and give up something for Lent. Decide what I'm giving up for Lent.
You were considering sugar as well, weren't you?
I think, having spoken to you this morning, I'm inspired.
I think you should.
Go and get your ashes.
I'll go and get my
9
ashes.
o'clock mass, get your ashes on your head.
I am dust, and to dust I shall return.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Freddie.
Right, have your say, get in touch. We'll be very happy to reflect what you're thinking on all sorts of things, including Lent. So today marks the first day of Lent. Today is Ash Wednesday.
Well, Christians across the globe will embark on a 40-day period of fasting and prayer until Easter Sunday.
So have a think about what's ahead.
Well, with more on this, we're joined now by historian Martin Whittock. Good to see you this morning, Martin.
Good morning.
Good morning. And lots of people this morning, we're talking about Ash Wednesday. Eamonn and I went to Catholic schools. We're very familiar with having crosses put on our foreheads. But for people who don't know, what is the first day of Lent all about with Ash Wednesday?
Well, Lent, interesting enough, it comes from the Old English word meaning lengthen, which means lengthen. And it reminds us that it takes place in the spring at the lengthening time of days. So that's the origin of the name. But what it's all about is 40 days of preparation for Easter. Now, it commemorates the 40 days in the wilderness that Jesus spent fasting and preparing for his ministry. So it connects the beginning and the end of the ministry of Jesus. So we think about those 40 days of fasting at the start of his ministry, but that is used by Christians to prepare as they move towards Easter, which of course took place at the end of his ministry. And from the Council of Nicaea in 425, it became formalized as a time of repentance, a time of prayer, a time of fasting. And in fact, in the Middle Ages, many people would eat only one meal a day, and they were to not eat meat or fish or dairy for the whole 40 days. And that's why in some cultures yesterday, did you have your pancakes yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we enjoyed our pancakes yesterday as well. And that's why in some cultures yesterday is called Mardi Gras, which means Fat Tuesday, which is when you ate up all the fat, you ate up all the eggs and the fat and the butter and so on. And then that was preparatory for the fast. In England and in UK, it's known as Shrove Tuesday, which means Shrive Tuesday, because traditionally that was the time when people confessed their sins and got themselves ready for Ash Wednesday, when often ash crosses were placed upon their foreheads to remind them of the passing nature of life. From dust we came, to dust we will return. Very somber ceremony, and then prepared them for that fast time of 40 days leading to Easter. Although it should be noted, Sundays are not fast days, because in the Christian tradition, Sunday is always a feast and celebration day, because it's the day that marks the resurrection of Jesus, which took place on the first day of the Jewish week, which was a Sunday.
Saturday.
So
you can have a Sunday off. You can have a Sunday. You can treat yourself on a Sunday.
Oh, thank goodness.
Martin, perfect. Absolutely. Thank you for explaining all of that, Martin, to you. Have a good Lent. Thank you very much indeed. Here's your weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, After dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, Western England and Western Scotland, as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've been talking about seagulls today, haven't we? Sophie Reaper's going to be with us at 9 talking about Altham, where seagulls are taking over the place. Little Grandma Craft has been in touch with me on Instagram because we were asking where Altham is. She says it's between Clayton Le Moors and Accrington.
Oh, yes,
she says it's closer to Accrington than Burnley, actually. So there you go. Now we know. Thank you, Little Grandma
Appreciate
Craft.
it. Final week to see how you could win one of 2 amazing prize bundles in our latest giveaway, the Great British Giveaway. Have a go.
There's just 2 days left to grab your chance to become one of 2 big winners, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The secret about pancakes is a really good pan.
Right.
Because what you don't want the pancakes to do is be sticking, so you're sort of scooping them out in look like scrabbled pancakes.
Yeah.
I think it's tradition, isn't it? The first one's always a bit rubbish, isn't it?
Mine always is.
That's always the first one goes either in the bin or usually my dad, to be fair. He gets the rubbish first one. Sorry, Dad.
So it's a consistent, and the pan, a little bit of oil. Mm-hmm. You just want, and then the heat. It's trial and error.
Yeah. How much
pancakes? Heat? Well, you want them quite hot because you want to get this colour. Yeah. So you want them hot. And when you flip a pancake, you're going to be tossing the pancake. Whether you are or not, whether it's on the ceiling or wherever.
No, that's too complicated, mate.
But, and not too big a pan.
Yeah.
OK. Not a wok.
Not a wok.
No.
Not a wok. No, not
Robert, OK, we have to ask the important question.
Should we get on to toppings?
Well, let's get on to toppings. Yeah. So we've got a few bits and bobs.
Now, Adam's favourite is, in my mind, controversial.
I'm curious what you think, Robert, because I really like strawberry jam.
I'll pass you the jam because that's your favourite.
Yeah. Now, is that in the kitchen?
Well, your pancakes look almost like scones, so you can...
Well, in this instance,
yes.
this is going to be fantastic.
Some of our viewers have been writing in with theirs. We had someone saying banana and ice cream.
Banana and ice cream, love it. Yeah.
Oh, right, OK.
Yeah,
someone said, now I found this really unusual, and I guess it's the sweet versus savoury debate. Someone said they have vegetable soup.
You what?
Yeah. I don't know if that was serious or not, but I mean, each their own. I'm going to go really traditional for my first one and have some lemon and sugar.
Robert, what do you have?
Lemon and sugar for me on a very, very flat, beautiful warm pancake that you fold over and then fold over again. So you can almost make them into some sort of crepe Suzette shape.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 7:28 and let's cross live to Westminster and speak to Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Andrew Griffith. Good to see you this morning, Mr Griffith. Can I start by asking you about Donald Trump? Because there are reports this morning that he's considering relinquishing US leadership of NATO. It's obviously after he insists that Europeans spend more on defence. Where would we be left if the US left NATO?
Well, we'd be left in a difficult position. The US is our longest, closest, deepest ally, particularly from a military perspective, and has been a cornerstone of NATO since its origination. So that would be a great concern. But as Kemi said yesterday, this is a time for cool heads, and where he's been absolutely right, and successive US administrations have made this point, is that we in Europe do need to step up, spend more on our own defence, and take more responsibility. It's encouraging to see many European leaders, led by our Prime Minister, talking about precisely that, but it's actions, not words, that matter. And now, including in the UK, it is important that all European nations step up and spend more on their own defence.
Andrew, what do you make of action on the employment rights bill? I mean, you're getting pretty hot under the collar with what was announced yesterday.
Yeah, look, this is a completely unnecessary bill. This government's come in, they've done real damage to the economy with their tax cuts, tax rises on business. And this employment bill, I'm afraid, Eamonn, it's literally a back to the 1970s greatest trade union hits. It's got shorter notice for strikes, making strikes easier to call with a swipe to strike, ability for digital voting. It gives trade unions' rights to enter private employers, and I could keep going on. It's a very damaging bill. It's not something that anybody really other than the trade unions needed. And at a time when we're now in a per capita recession, we're not getting any more prosperous on an average basis per head, it really is not something that this government should be doing. It's a difficult world situation. Let's focus on fixing that, fix the economy. The last thing we need is more red tape.
But Andrew, the government, the Labour government, was standing for the election. This was exactly the sort of thing that they were saying that you wouldn't see. You're now seeing the manifestation of this, and you use the term going back to the 70s. And I mean, you have lived through the 70s. You've seen the effects of too much power, and a lot of people, and I would be sympathetic to this myself, that workers' rights are very, very important. Can you preserve the both? Can you get that growth and yet preserve workers' rights, or are they up for grabs?
No, you absolutely can, and I think that we have around the right balance in the United Kingdom. There's always little bits at the margin, but what you don't need, Eamonn, is a 250-page bill, right? The only productivity that this government's delivering is the people that write these terrible pieces of legislation. What we don't need is this huge bill, this massive intervention. No business is calling for it. Most employees are happy with the lot they've got. We've got a relatively flexible labour market. And remember, past Labour governments, including Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, didn't feel the need to open this box that's going to do great damage to the economy. So it's very, like their attack on independent schools, it's very driven by ideology. It's very regrettable. The government should be shelving this bill. We don't need this. And there are much bigger things that we need to be focusing on as a country right now.
Can I ask you about the comments from JD Vance yesterday, talking about the potential peacekeeping force in Ukraine, talking about the random countries that would be sending these troops that haven't won a war in 40 years or so. What did you make of those comments?
Well, he was very clear, as I understand it. He wasn't talking about the UK and France. Our service men and women have stood side by side. Well, we've stood side by side with the US, our closest and deepest ally. As Kemi said, you know, it is right that we have cool heads. People shouldn't be looking to create division. Everybody wants peace in Ukraine, but President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine have to be part of a lasting solution as well.
Yeah. Andrew, up next, we're going to talk about something very, very interesting, put forward by your colleagues in Scotland, put forward by the Conservatives in Scotland, and that is let kids leave school at 14 if they want. The idea being it could give them more access into apprenticeships and whatever, which you could argue one way or the other. What's your take on that? Do you support them in that?
Well, look, I think one of the great, obviously, historical things that we've achieved in this country is education for all and the right for everybody to have a really good quality education. So, you know, we've got to be very careful not to cast this at the extremity and have people allege that it's about pushing kids out of the systems early. I also know, as a constituency member of Parliament, that you know, every child is different, and some have different needs and respond in different circumstances. So, you know, as a Conservative, I believe in choice, particularly parental choice. And so it may well be, and I haven't seen the details of the proposal, Eamonn, but it may well be that this is a thoughtful proposal that for a small minority of children, this gives them the best chance of a life, and then the best chance to get an education in their own way. It's a little bit like homeschooling. That clearly is not for everybody, but I've always defended the rights of people who want to school their children at home, if that's what parents believe.
Could you have imagined, I mean, I don't know what your education upbringing was, Andrew, but could you imagine leaving school at 14? I know I would not have been ready. You know, I needed to do at least secondary education as well. A lot of people, you know, just have the dream of tertiary education. But what do you think you would have been like at 14 going into the workplace?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed my education, actually. I went to my local comprehensive school. I was the first in my family to go to university. I was enormously lucky, and I want that choice for everybody. But it is intrinsic in choice that, you know, people do get to make their own informed decisions. So, as I say, I haven't seen this proposal. I really don't think leaving school at 14 is wise for the vast, vast majority. But a little bit like homeschool, a little bit like some, you know, people who go and do a football academy or they go to drama school early. You know, that if that's the choice that's right, and there are sensible, thought-through proposals, then, you know, let's look at them in a sensible way and not knee-jerk about it.
OK, well, Andrew, we covered a lot of subjects there. Thanks for your time and tolerance with us this morning. And speaking so openly, Andrew Griffith is the Shadow Business Secretary.
And as we were saying, the Scottish Tories have put forward plans to lower the school leaving age to 14. It's in a bid to improve opportunities for youngsters. OK, so would it give teenagers a fast track into apprenticeships? Do they need that? If carried out, it would be the lowest school leaving age in Europe. So what do we think of all of this? Let's debate this now with Scottish Shadow Education Secretary Miles Briggs there. Good morning, Miles. And Policy Officer for the Liberal Democratic Party, Callum Robertson. Very good morning to both of you. Miles, let's start with you. Should we lower the school leaving age to 14?
So we've put forward this idea partly because statistics in Scotland are showing around 15% of young people are leaving school with no qualifications whatsoever. So our school system is failing a minority of pupils. So this is where working with teachers, with colleges, listening to parents, but most importantly, listening to these young people, we need to do something different as a country, and opportunities for 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds to actually go into both in terms of apprenticeships, but also college courses aren't being realised. So this is why we want to have this debate to look towards really realising the potential of every young person in Scotland, because currently our system is not doing that.
Callum?
I think it's an absolutely terrible idea. No disrespect to Miles and the 3 seconds of thought that clearly went into this back of a fag packet education disaster. But actually, your colleagues south of the border, put bluntly, have done some fantastic work over the last 14 years in revolutionising the English education curriculum. It baffles me that the Conservatives in Scotland are considering tearing down some of that work and having kids leaving the education system, frankly, before they're ready. This is something that will harm literacy rates and numeracy rates, both of which actually in the latest PISA rankings, Scotland are really struggling with. You're going to exacerbate the problem and make it worse.
Miles, what are you hearing from parents? What's their initial reaction on all of this?
So listening to parents who are trying to keep their pupils focused on their education, one of the great successes which I very much support at the minute is the school-college partnerships, which currently are giving young people maybe 1 day a week to go to college, and they're thriving there, they're loving that education access. And then they're not enjoying school. And so parents or teachers are telling us, why aren't they not able just to go at 15 into college to get this training? They're not performing in school. And we're basically holding them in a landing pattern until they can go to college. So this is about a common sense approach. This is about looking to these 15% of young people who will not be leaving school with any qualifications. So we are failing them in the school system, and it's giving them an opportunity. And I don't see actually any reason why, if they then decide later on, and let's face it, all of us at different ages develop at different ages, decide actually we want to go back, we want to go to university. Lifelong learning should be something we all celebrate and want to see. If kids want to go back and actually do their hires, there's that opportunity. But to just basically write 15% of young people off, and then usually it takes time for them to focus again on whether or not they want to be in education, is failing young people. And, you know, that's where we need to do something different as a country, to be bold, but actually to not just keep to the systems which we've aligned, which have failed too many young people.
Yeah. Miles, Callum, I'm afraid we're out of time with you this morning, but thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Let us know what you think, gbnews.com/you'll say. Do stay with us. Paul Cox,
we'll be back with the newspapers, going through those right after the short break.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed in both directions between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 26 and 27 from Chainbar to Gilderson, causing queues. In Derbyshire, the A52 is closed eastbound along Brian Clough Way in Derby for an investigation, causing queues. In the West Midlands, Walsall Road at Stone Cross in West Bromwich is closed each way for emergency water main repairs. Train services in London are suspended between Paddington and Reading because of a signalling problem. Trains in Essex have been stopped between Grays and Upminster because of a signalling problem. And in East Sussex, the A259 remains closed along Grand Junction Road in Brighton because of an unsafe building. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're delighted to have the company of Claire Muldoon and Pat Sharp today. They're giving their opinions and stories that are in the newspapers.
Yes, and Claire, we'll start with you, shall we? We're ready for peace, Zelensky tells Trump.
Yeah, so there's loads to unpack on this story, as we all know. Diplomatic relations between America, UK, the rest of Europe and indeed Ukraine, notwithstanding Russia, are at a tinderbox. We're at, the precipice of going forward, hopefully for peace. And the one man that can help us get there is, of course, the Donald. And so it's for me, actually, the optic of this from Number 10 is really weird, because Keir Starmer, I never thought, could be the conduit, actually, between Europe, America and Ukraine. And that's indeed the role that he's actually taking on. Bravo, hats off. As long as it gets us peace, as long as it gets that crossover across the big sea, as Donald Trump said that he has, well, we all have, between us, the better. I really do think it's the better.
Peace at what price? When you see what went on in Gaza, you see babies, you see children, you see mothers, fathers, whatever. You saw tragedy during bombings and war. We do not see these pictures coming out of Ukraine. Someone somewhere in news organisations, whatever, has decided to take the humanity, the tenderness out of all of this. And I look and I listen to Trump and that other mouthpiece, J.D. Vance, and I think, yeah, OK, I understand what you're saying. We want an end to all of this. But there's no humanity in anything that they say.
But they're business people. Why? I mean, they are trying to get the negotiation over the line.
What about justice?
Justice
Should you worry
for
about justice?
Well, justice can come.
Well,
justice
Putin
can come.
starts a war. Putin picks on their shoulders and says, "Oh, I'm going to bomb the hell out of you if you don't let me walk across the border and take over your country."
It's not as simple as that, though.
Well, I think it is.
Really? I don't think it is at all. I think this Ukraine war is an absolute proxy Biden war. I really do. And I think...
Explain that one to us.
Well, I think that from the historical remit that we have and all the information that we have, going back even to 2014, even beyond that, the takedown of the Berlin Wall, right? Russia was then said, OK, we will retreat from Germany. We will move out, on the basis that NATO will not move further east. But what has NATO been doing?
Yeah.
Inching. Now, when Donald Trump says things like, Zelensky, you started the war, clearly Zelensky didn't, right? He didn't, fire the first shot. It was Russia. It was Putin, who is an evil dictator. Right? However, when you push the bear, when you prod the bear, and Ukraine was 50% Russian, 50% Ukrainian in terms of demographic, then what's going to happen? The war. That's what happened. Everyone could see it happening. The fallout from it has been humongous. 600,000 deaths from Ukraine army personnel alone. 2,000 people maimed and killed a day. Now, this is on the back of Zelensky, who's flown in, right, not metaphorically here, flown in as a leader of Ukraine, but then last year did a Vogue photo shoot with his wife. That was mid-war. Now, come on. There's something going on. Biden pushed that war. Biden enabled that war. Biden, the Americans, Trump's right, gave their first-class war ammunition to Ukraine to use. We didn't. Europe didn't, OK? It's no one's interest to finish that war apart from human beings.
Claire is obviously very well informed on all of this, Pat. I put it to you that most people in the United Kingdom, for instance, are too busy going on with their own lives, and this may sound harsh, but I believe this is true, to care about what is going on in Ukraine and how it affects them?
No, I think they still care, but I think, as you say, their priorities of their own lives perhaps lead the front, but they still care deep down, I think. And it goes back to when people were, at football matches, they were asking when that started 3 years ago to donate there, and people were doing so. But it's dragged on such a long time now, perhaps it's just gone a little bit back.
We're going to take a break there. What are we doing, Ellie?
We're going to look at the European travel weather, and then we'll be back going through the papers with Claire and Pat.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst high pressure in the south of the UK brings sunshine, it will turn increasingly unsettled for Iberia, although mostly fine for Italy and for much of Greece, albeit with a keen breeze through the Greek islands into Thursday. There'll also be a freshening breeze through Sicily and some outbreaks of rain turning up here. But the most unsettled weather will be Iberia, particularly Portugal, through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Some heavy downpours, thunderstorms and strengthening winds.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Could Doctor Who be for the chop after more than 60 years? Well, here to explain why there's a lot of rumour, a buzz about this story is the GB News entertainment editor, Alex Davies. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What on earth is going on?
Well, this has all sort of come around because the reports have emerged that the lead actor, Ncuti Gatwa, is planning on leaving. He's only been there for 2 years, but apparently he's already eyeing up the exit door. He wants to reportedly set up a new life in LA. He's got countless Hollywood opportunities lined up for him, according to reports. And the reports are also suggesting his team aren't too fond of some of the woke storylines that have emerged in the last few years. The series has come under fire a number of times. There's been several storylines that have been criticised for pushing certain narratives. They cast a black actor as Isaac Newton for one. There are other examples, including misgendering aliens.
Do aliens have gender?
Well, you'd be surprised, apparently. There's one called a Meep that David Tennant, who briefly reprised his role before Ncuti, he got the Meep their gender wrong and was pulled up about it by a trans character.
Just very forced, it seems. Very forced. Oh, we need to get in the gender nouns and the pronouns. But there was also a bit of heat just for having a female doctor, wasn't there? Jodie Whittaker.
There was, but I feel like that's always going to get heat. When you take a fictional character, a fictional institution, which has been white men predominantly, and you put something that goes against that, you're going to get attention. This one in particular, like I say, with these sort of storylines, has garnered more attention than most.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are enjoying the company of Claire Muldoon and Pat Sharp, and I presume you two, and I hope you two are enjoying what material you're getting in the newspapers. Because Pat, here's one. You working in the music industry, you doing what you do. And here's something that could affect the way we all think. Tell us about that.
Absolutely, Eamonn. Struggling to concentrate? Well, no, it sounds like falling over a stick at work. Doesn't it sound like I was doing an effort there? But if you are struggling to concentrate, they suggest you don't go to a library for the silence, shh, you actually listen to something a little more lively, which is instrumental music, upbeat style. It boosts your brain power, and it's called, you'll like this, arousal mood theory.
Oh.
Now, it's interesting you say instrumental music, because that immediately reminds me of department store music or...
Lift.
Yeah, lift.
Or Blinky-Plonky,
in a lift.
music. Yeah.
Elevator music.
Yeah.
Non-PRS, library music.
Well, what do you think? Is that what it's talking about?
Well,
instrumental?
It's saying it has to have a beat, but it doesn't necessarily have to have any lyrics. Yes, absolutely. And it means that the quality of music that makes you want to basically tap your foot or nod your head will help you concentrate better.
There's no doubt. I don't know if it helps me concentrate, but it makes me feel different. What do you like?
A mood booster. I think I have to have music playing when I'm cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
It keeps me.
But do you know the best bit about that? Playing music, cooking, having a glass of something, having a glass of wine or a gin and tonic, or just something to really get you.
So
these things we can't do during Lent.
I was about to say, can't do any of that.
Can't do any of that.
No.
No.
What about if you guys have music now in the background with your?
Oh, that would be a bit distracting.
Yeah, but they're saying it's not. They're saying it's going to help you.
No, I agree. I actually...
What, you'd enjoy that?
I would want to do a programme where we sit and we talk news and current affairs issues, and I'll say, anyway, here's Rolls-Royce car wash. I'd like to link then to that, and people will then suddenly feel quite good, a bit of music in between that. I suppose, in a way, it's like the Jeremy Vine show on Radio 2, where he can debate current affairs.
And then goes into a song.
And go into a bit of music. Yeah. And I also find that, for me, Claire, 70s music is what... And it probably reminds me of being 12, 13, 14.
I agree.
Well, 70s music reminds me of being born, if I have any memories, being born in 72. But my kids now that are all old, in fact, my youngest is 21 tomorrow. I can't believe it. Happy birthday, Tom. But they all love the 80s music. They love the 70s vibe.
It's great music.
And it's because it's great music. It really is. Name me something today that's not got some form of artificial sound or made-up sound, or, you know, it's very difficult to get. You've got loads of... You've got rap, R&B, garage, you know, everything. But then go back to the 70s and 80s, you've got proper tunes.
Bangers.
You've got bangers.
Yeah.
You've got absolute bangers.
Give us your opinions now, without music, on Lent. Here we are, which is the first day of Lent.
Yeah.
Today is Ash Wednesday in the Christian calendar. How do you think Great Britain approaches that?
Funnily enough, you say that. Absolutely doesn't. None of the papers are covering it at all today.
So this is a Christian country.
This is a Christian country.
Church of England is the primary religion.
You've got the Defender of the Faith, King Charles, opening up Windsor Castle for the iftar feed for the start of Ramadan. And, you know, there's nothing to say that you're going to get your ashes...
We want to recognise Ramadan, but we're frightened to recognise...
Lent.
Christianity.
Yep, and the death and the rise of Christ.
Yeah. Pat, Claire, thanks very much. Let's get a check on the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn. and so frost a bit more patchy as well rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, Western England and Western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsored.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed each way between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there are long eastbound delays after an accident earlier between junctions 26 and 27 from Chainbar to Gildersham. In Norfolk, the A47 is partly blocked by an accident at the Acle roundabout between Great Yarmouth and Norwich, causing queues. In London on the A13, the inside lanes closed westbound after an accident between Marsh Way and the Gorsebrook interchange at Dagenham. Queues from Rainham Marshes. Train services in London are suspended between Paddington and Reading because of a signalling problem at Twyford. They're also suspended between West Ealing and Greenford and between Maidenhead and Marlow. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking over half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in East Sussex, the A259 remains closed on Grand Junction Road in Brighton because of an unsafe building. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Donald Trump claims President Zelensky is ready to negotiate.
Well, it comes.
Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible.
Well, it comes as reports suggest that America's NATO membership hangs in the balance.
That's as the Defense Secretary prepares to meet his counterpart in Washington today in a bid to bridge the transatlantic divide.
Well, this will be the first time that John Healey has met Pete Hesketh, the Defence Secretary, since that uplift in defence spending in the UK was announced. His job is to try to convince the Americans that the UK and its European allies are serious about its own defence.
JD Vance is forced to deny that he disrespected the British Armed Forces, with some accusing him of saying that Britain hasn't fought a war in 40 years. Here's what Nigel Farage had to say.
JD Vance is wrong. Wrong.
For 20 years in Afghanistan, pro rata, our size against America's, we spent the same amount of money, we put the same number of men and women in, and we suffered the same losses. We stood by America all through those 20 years, putting in exactly the same contribution. And all right, they may be 6 times bigger, but we did our bit. So on this one, JD is wrong.
4 in 10 farmers now say they expect to go out of business in the next 5 years. Is it a job you would do?
Viewers dub Meghan Markle fake following the release of her new cooking show on Netflix. We're asking this morning, can she ever change the public perception of her?
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
A 4-day celebration has been announced to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, including a concert, fly past, and a special service at Westminster Abbey.
Lent begins. Millions around the world start 40 days of reflection and sacrifice. What are you giving up?
And seagulls give very little up. A community plagued by them, residents in Altham in Lancashire, are forced to take cover on bin day over fears they could be splattered by a lot of white stuff.
And in the sport, safe to say that Arsenal are going to be through to the last 8 of the Champions League after beating PSV Eindhoven 7-1 last night. After landing in hot water, Liverpool manager Arne Slot vowed not to lose his temper again as they play PSG in Paris tonight. And Emma Raducanu said yesterday that she couldn't see the ball through tears after her stalking ordeal at the Dubai Open.
Big differences once again up and down the UK through today. Wet and windy in the far north, dry and sunny in the far south. Full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you halfway through the week on this Wednesday morning. However you're watching, however you're listening, you are very welcome. Maybe you're in the car, maybe you're at home, maybe you're in the office. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Thanks very much indeed for getting in touch today. Colin says Starmer needs to wind his neck in and butt out of the Ukraine negotiations. He's like a fly around Trump's backside. One day he will be swatted.
Oh, dear.
Not a fan then, Colin.
No, but Sean's a fan of Claire, saying, well done, Claire Muldoon. Common sense and saying it like it is.
And Claire's on the papers with us again in about 35 minutes' time. Billy says, I was all for Trump due to his telling it as it is attitude, but he's showing signs of aggression and an attitude that will not win him any friends. So I'm a bit on the fence at the moment over him.
Yeah, and Paul agrees, saying Trump's speech, what a load of grandstanding. I'm sure that he's going mad. And Susan says Zelensky is now going to have to go back to the White House wearing a suit and tie.
Wearing a suit and tie and ready to do the sport today, Mr. Paul Coit.
Without the tie.
Oh, no tie.
Without the tie. Do you know what? It's been so long I've been doing this, and I've often thought, should I wear the tie or should I wear the tie? Do you think it's time for a tie?
I think it's time not for a tie now.
I think so.
I think we're very close to a time where, ties, my tailor tells me that ties are out of style.
Oh, really?
People don't buy them
I
anymore.
think they're never out of style.
Well, they are. You only buy them for weddings and going to horse racing and things like that.
Maybe just a neckerchief.
Well, I can see a day not far off where male newsreaders will present the news tieless.
Yeah.
I've already seen it happen. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Oh, I don't like it. Sports reporters say, for instance, on Sky, don't have...
Do they not?
Well, that's a whole other story.
They're just copying other people that don't wear ties. They used to wear ties. You know what happened if I don't wear a jacket? They won't wear a jacket. Then they start messing around. You know
what are they going to take off next?
I know. Quite frankly, I'm fed up with it. Fed up with it.
Thank you very much indeed,
Thanks,
Mr. Paul. Breaking news overnight, President Trump has confirmed President Zelensky is now willing to sign that deal with America on minerals.
Well, this morning, the Mail Online are also reporting that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine.
It also reported the president is planning to relinquish leadership of NATO. instead urging Britain and France to take on more responsibility.
Well, in the past few hours, the president gave an address to the US Congress. GB News' Evan Dale has the latest.
America is back.
It was always going to be an address made for the media.
And our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
But moments into the speech, it was interrupted by Democrat Representative Al Green. It then wasn't long before the president took aim towards the previous administration.
And under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In the midst of reeling off his administration's progress to date, he hailed the beginning of a revolution.
Free speech in America is back. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world.
President Trump also brought up the contentious issue of tariffs.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one.
He also announced plans for a defense dome similar to that of Israel.
I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland.
And then came the news on Ukraine that everybody was waiting for.
Today I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
Donald Trump also made a teenage brain cancer survivor's dream come true.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Evan Dale, GB News.
OK, let's cross live now. Here's our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, give us more on this story.
Well, certainly, as far as Ukraine is concerned, it was encouraging to hear Donald Trump talk in positive terms about the latest developments. That letter from President Zelensky saying that he was prepared seriously to enter into these negotiations and, of course, to sign that mineral deal. There had been some suggestions a mineral deal could have been signed just prior to that speech in Congress, with President Trump being able to wave that signed deal around. That didn't happen. And perhaps a little worrying is a spokesman for Volodymyr Zelensky this morning on the media talking about the mineral deal not being signed until Ukraine gets those security guarantees from the US. Now, if that's true, we're back to square one again. But let's just see how that evolves, because certainly the letter that came out that was widely publicised from Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday was very positive in nature. And I think the US administration, from their point of view, are saying, you know, they acknowledge the amount of times that Vladimir Putin has flouted the previous Minsk Accords, the deals of a ceasefire in the past. But what is to lose by giving it a shot this time round? President Trump, in that speech to Congress, saying that he had just spoken to, or his officials had certainly spoken to Russia, and the messages they are getting back from the Kremlin is that they are very serious about entering into proper peace negotiations. It all comes, of course, as John Healey, our Defence Secretary, heads out to Washington to meet his US counterpart on the back of the increase in defence spending, which was announced by the Prime Minister, and of course comes just a day after King Charles was on board our giant aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales, which is preparing for a key operation heading down to the Indo-Pacific and to Japan to show, of course, America that it is committed, the UK that is, to playing its part in international security.
Mark White, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much. Let's get the thoughts now of the founding director of the UCL Centre on US Politics, Thomas Gift. Good to see you, Thomas. What do you make of the special relationship now? We've been talking this morning about the story that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine. I mean, that sounds like a complete breakdown of trust between the US and Britain.
Well, I think that it is, and it's reflective largely of Donald Trump's kind of transactional approach to foreign policy. It's not values-based, and it's not predicated on some of these principles that we have long assumed kind of undergirded the special relationship, like a shared common defense, like sharing intelligence information, like putting sort of democracy and human rights even sometimes at the top of the agenda item. So, I think when it came to Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, there was much more of a personal rapport there, and a lot of foreign policy ends up just being a function of personal rapport. And I don't know if we necessarily get that with Trump and Keir Starmer.
No. What did you make of that address to Congress? I mean, it was the early hours of the morning for us here. The Democratic protest was actually one of the biggest stories of that 100-minute address, actually.
Yeah, this was certainly an aggressive, unapologetic address. There's really no other way to spin it. Trump basically reaffirmed every policy stance without hesitation. That included tariffs, included mass deportations, DOGE, the advocating for negotiated peace in Ukraine. His first 6 weeks in office have really been a whirlwind, and the speech was a full-throated defense of that relentless pace. There was no outreach toward Democrats at all, no attempt at bipartisanship. It was basically Donald Trump saying that he has the mandate, he has the political winds behind him, and he's going to use it, particularly in these first 100 days in office.
Where are we at with a peace deal with Ukraine? We've seen Zelensky's olive branch, that letter to Trump, which he mentioned in that speech to Congress last night, saying he was pleased to receive it. What do you think happens next? Do you think we will get this mineral deal signed?
Well, Trump certainly appeared more open to resuming talks with Zelensky. He did reiterate the stance that if you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides, referring to Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, he did read aloud that message of gratitude from Zelensky. And I think whether Trump and Zelensky can move past their very significant personal differences, compounded by last week's failed Oval Office meeting that derailed the peace deal, is somewhat uncertain. I do think that probably at the end of the day, they're going to get this rare earth mineral deal done with the U.S., which could serve as at least an informal guarantee of security for Ukraine. But I think it's also clear that Zelensky wants more than that from both the U.S. and Europe.
Thomas, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. The time is 13 minutes past 8 o'clock. Let's get the weather update, see what it's doing out there today. Yesterday was nice. It was a lovely blue sky. Day. Yeah. Let's see if it's going to be more the same today. Aidan McGivern.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, Western England and Western Scotland, as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The bit I loved best with Aidan's forecast there was that phrase, the strong March sun.
Oh, yeah. And we felt that yesterday.
We did.
It was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the day before.
Yes, it's been a lovely week so far. Lovely.
Very good.
And this is lovely too.
Very lovely.
Yeah, it's the final week to see how you could win one of two amazing prize bundles in our latest Great British Giveaway. Have a go.
There's just 2 days left to grab your chance to become one of 2 big winners, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Prize there. A big story coming up. 4 out of 10 farmers saying they could be out of business in just 5 years. That's next.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, indeed. And identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Latest on the farming crisis, and new studies found that more than a third of them could be out of business in just 5 years' time. Now, this all comes as farmers descended to Westminster on Tuesday to protest against the government's raid on inheritance tax.
Well, we're joined now by Managing Director of Ashbridge Partners, Mark Ashbridge, and farmer Richard Williams. Good to see you both this morning. And Mark, you led the research on this, didn't you? It's very alarming.
Yes, we did. That's quite right. We act for a lot of farmers, have done for many, many years in raising of debt. And it's clear to us that as a result of this, then there will be a very significant uptick in requirement for raising of debt. But the big problem with this, of course, is that it's not an investment like anything else, like, for example, a renewable project, a solar farm, for example, that would provide a yield and allow a farmer to service and to repay that debt.
And what were you hearing, Mark, from farmers? Is this down to the inheritance tax changes, or is it a number of things that are forcing farms to go bust?
This is wholly centred on the inheritance tax changes. It's something that's come very much out of the blue. The system that as was has been in place for over 30 years, and understandably, many farmers have been planning for recent generations, and believing that their business was going to be safe and secure to hand on to their sons and daughters. But this change is obviously is seismic, really.
Well, Richard, Mark came up with the words there, safe and secure. How safe and secure do you feel?
Well, this has put a huge spanner in the works for us. I mean, the whole ethos of inheritance tax, the relief on it, was to protect family businesses. And that's the other thing to realise in this situation. It isn't just farms that have been affected. It is every family business in the UK. And the reason people say we don't pay our taxes, well, we pay on all our private possessions, our houses, our investments, our pensions. We pay the full rate, the same as everybody else.
Yeah,
but when it comes to
that's all political speak, Richard. I mean, when I hear them talking like that, what they mean is, it's not that you don't pay your taxes, it's we could get more out of these guys and we're not. There's nothing to do with you, it's all to do with them.
Well, and I think that is the interesting thing about this. I think when we look at us as a business now, why am I going to want to invest in plant and machinery and jobs when all that is going to do is basically put money on the balance sheet that I'm going to have to pay, or my children are going to have to pay tax on. So I think what they try to do is raise money. And I understand the world is in a different place and they are in a difficult place. But I think they're actually going to end up being in a net position. The people are they're going to rein back in on their business. They're not going to reinvest. And the money they're going to raise from this inheritance tax is going to be a lot less than they would have raised from normal taxes, i.e. corporation tax and income tax.
I agree with you. When you look into the whole logic of it all, that's sort of the way it is. But you've got to understand, and governments aren't against this, and particularly the tax departments aren't against this, it's thievery. There's thievery, and we should all say that it is thievery in many ways. But could you tell me about your farm? As such there, Richard, what type of farmer are you, and what are the problems facing you on a day-to-day basis? I'm not talking about the inheritance tax situation. Before you even get to inheritance tax, how bad or how easy are things?
So we've got 550 acres. We're in Herefordshire, and we have a mixture of arable, fruit, livestock and poultry, and a couple of smaller diversified.
That's a big mix.
Yes, it is a mix, and times are difficult. There's a lot of legislation, a lot of bureaucracy. And, we sell poultry. When we sell a chicken that is the same price as half a pint of beer, I think that probably tells you a lot about the situation we are in at the moment.
Yeah, but the situation that you're in, these politicians, they don't know. It's not exactly they don't care, but I would put it to you, Mark, that they don't know the businesses they're dealing with. They don't know the implications. They're being advised by some department about tax that they could claim on this and may help their coffers a bit more. But they don't understand what Richard is going through, or people like him. Do they really?
I'm certain that is true. And the key point when it comes to agriculture is that as a business, the yield on agricultural assets tends to be plus or minus 1%, versus other business, which would typically be a good deal more than that. And that's the key point why paying inheritance tax every generation at even 20% is something that's very, very challenging. The way that we're looking at it and discussing with our clients is focusing on the opportunities to, in some cases, raise debt against the farm, hand on the debt that's raised, the cash, to the next generation. But that does come with additional challenges, and it's making it harder. But we will adapt to the marketplace that we have to work with.
Well, your figures are shocking, that maybe as many as 4 out of 10 farmers could be out of business in 5 years' time. That's very, very sobering. I hope that is not the case, and I wish both of you good luck, and thank you for highlighting your argument to us today. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do stay with us. Still to come, Paul Coit will be here with all the sport. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed each way between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. In Tyrone, the A45 is closed each way at New Mills after an accident last night. In Norfolk, the A47 is partly blocked by an accident at the Acle roundabout between Norwich and Great Yarmouth, causing queues. In London on the A13, the inside lane's closed westbound after an accident between Marshway and the Gorsebrook interchange at Dagenham, with queues from Wellington almost back to the M25. Train services in London are suspended between West Ealing and Greenford. No service too between Maidenhead and Marlow because of a signalling problem. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour, and queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Red Funnel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended because of poor visibility, and some cancelled Brittany ferry sailings between Portsmouth and Le Havre. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, It happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just saying to Paul, it's amazing how many people's names you forget.
So we're talking about Lorraine Chase, right?
No, never, don't go into things. But you know, you often...
Oh, sorry.
No, don't be. But Stephen, honestly, what have you got this morning for sport?
OK, I will tell you what I have for sport. Firstly, the result of Arsenal last night.
Yeah, we all know that.
It's got 7 goals last night.
I know.
I can't believe it's got 7 goals.
But what else? I mean, there's stuff here. I mean, Slot, the Liverpool manager, and they're playing. They have a big game tonight.
Let me tell you about that. So Liverpool are going to be playing PSG tonight. Now, there's a story about Arne Slot. Arne Slot, the Liverpool manager, who, by the way, is magnificent. I think he's been very, very good.
He's doing very well, yeah.
And I like the way he talks, but he did lose his temper recently when they played Arsenal, and he started shouting at the referee. So there was an FA ruling against him, so they published the written reasons. Now, this is it. This is him going out to Michael Oliver and just giving him a little bit of lip. And he said to him, I will blame you, with the odd expletive in there, if we don't win the league. So there was a charge against him. He was banned for 3 games, which has now been dropped to 2. And Arne Slot, before the PSG game, was asked how he felt about the ruling against him. This is what he had to say.
I think what I've said also in the written report, and I can say this one more time, that the moment it happened, I was quite emotional for everything what had happened in the last 7 or 8 minutes, and maybe during the whole game. And I chose to go on the pitch instead of staying calm, stay inside, and then talking to the referee, to Michael. Now, I don't have these same emotions anymore, so I think I should now set a better example than I set back then. And don't go into this situation again. I think it's clear what I've said and what Michael has written, what I have written. And I think Michael has been in the news quite a lot recently, and I don't think it helps if I add something to that now. Now I have my emotions under control.
Well, you see, Michael has been in the news.
Well, we're going to get on to that, but I like the way he is. You know, he actually he apologises.
No,
you know, everybody gets emotional.
He's not apologising.
He did apologise.
No, look, he's basically saying, oh, yes, maybe I was wrong, whatever, but Michael's been in the news. That speaks for itself. What he's basically saying is, I'll back out of this now because Oliver's hung himself by his own petard.
I think what he's saying, I think he's saying that Michael Oliver has been in the news, so I'm not going to pile it on him even more.
No, he said my case rests. That's what he's saying.
OK.
That's
well, look, let's talk about Michael Oliver then. So Michael Oliver, the referee, was also the referee, and this is the reason he's been in the news, for the Crystal Palace versus Millwall game. So there was the decision that he had to make, or didn't make at the time, when Jean-Philippe Mateta was, well, how would you call the foul that Liam Roberts, the goalkeeper, did on Jean-Philippe Mateta? There it is, after 8 minutes of that FA Cup game.
Just horrendous.
It was horrendous, and Mateta ended up in hospital. Now, this is even more interesting, that Millwall fans, who Roberts plays for, so he ended up getting a red card eventually after looking at VAR. So Millwall fans were playing last night, and they played Bristol City. So in the 8th minute of the game against Bristol City, they all had a round of applause. But who do you think it was for? Was it for Mateta? Was it for Liam Roberts, the goalkeeper, or was it for the referee?
Referee.
It was for Liam Roberts. Because they felt, how? I know he's probably had a tough time with social media, but they were applauding the goalkeeper who actually made the foul, not the player that was injured. So that's what they did yesterday.
I forget what the anniversary is, a very Cantana's Kung Fu kick, whatever, but it's...
Well, it's got to be 30 odd years, surely now,
No,
right?
it wouldn't be 30 years, no.
Well, I think it was, Millwall.
But,
Wimbledon.
But anyway.
Yeah.
When you think back to them, 99% of people supported Cantona.
Yeah.
What he did
But firstly, though, you know, there was that kung fu kick at someone in the crowd. Now, someone in the crowd was giving him a really tough time.
Yeah.
You know, comparing it to what happened with the goalkeeper, this is a guy that's going out to clear the ball out and has really clattered into it. But that's why I still think that people would look at Cantona and go, yeah, I can see what he's doing, because it was constant what he was getting. But then again, you can't excuse what he did. There's other ways of doing it, surely. Having a quiet word.
Cupping. Have you ever had
Yes,
cupping
that just
done?
caught my eye as well. No, but I've heard it can be brutal.
I've had cupping.
Have you? Is it
I've had it
brutal?
as well, yeah.
Suction cup.
Yes, it's. I wouldn't describe it as the most pleasant experience.
It wasn't pleasant, and I don't know whether it actually did any good for me either. But Eugenie Bouchard, former Wimbledon finalist, she's put it on Instagram. Have a look at that. What do you think about that?
What part of his body is that?
Well, it's her, and if that's, I believe it's a shoulder. You'd think it was probably hit by a load of tennis balls, but no, that's...
Is that all
that's
bruising?
cupping. Yeah, because it sucks the heat. You put the cup and it sucks up, and that's all the blood and bruisey and very... And you end up with these great big lumps.
That does look brutal.
I know, it really does.
So what's she saying about this?
Well, she's saying that she's had the cupping and that it's trying to help her injury, and that's it. So she's put pictures of her shoulder. Should see the rest of the body. Absolutely frightening.
Okay. So brutal. Emma. Dylan, who's that? Dylan who? Dennis? Who's
They got into the swing of things with the Pancake.
Yeah. Well, this is we spoke about this, didn't we, with Conor Benn recently, and also Chris Eubank Jr. with the slap of the egg. So yesterday, this is KSI. It's just one of these fights, you know. It's one of the crazy fights that they do. He actually decided to slap his opponent with a pancake. So at least it's seasonal. At least it's seasonal.
They've
So there we
started
are.
a trend with this now, Coity. They're going to be slapping things in.
Well, I dread to think what possibly could be next. Easter egg, I suppose, is probably going to be next. A big chocolate egg across someone's face.
Well, I'll tell you what's next here. We say goodbye to you, Paul, and still to come, Pat Sharp and Claire Muldoon. They have got the papers after we have a little sneak look at where the winter sun is.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst high pressure in the south of the UK brings sunshine, it will turn increasingly unsettled for Iberia, although mostly fine for Italy and for much of Greece, albeit with a keen breeze through the Greek islands into Thursday. There'll also be a freshening breeze through Sicily and some outbreaks of rain turning up here. But the most unsettled weather will be Iberia, particularly Portugal, through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Some heavy downpours, thunderstorms and strengthening winds.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Last week, Christie's Auction House in New York announced that it was holding an auction devoted solely to art created with artificial intelligence. Nearly 6,000 people have signed an open letter calling on Christie's to cancel the sale over concerns that the technology behind such AI art pieces exploits human artists and can potentially violate their copyright. And there are broader ethical questions at play too. Where do the boundaries of art lie? With me now is James Thomas from Martin Stanmore Auctions. James, very good to see you indeed. I don't quite see how you can have art without a human being. I mean, art to me is something which is produced by a human being which expresses something about the human condition. To me, that cannot be produced by a machine. How do you react to that?
I agree completely with what you're saying there. I think for us at Martin Stanmore, we're very much about sort of getting behind artists in a traditional method.
I sometimes say to my team, you know, I've got a piece to camera to do now. Find out what AI would say that I would say. And, of course, what it comes up with, it doesn't have enough knowledge about what I've just experienced, so it's not a perfect example. But it certainly gets the tone. And therefore, I mean, I'm completely replaceable. I mean, you know, the next series that I do... Well, thank you so much. The next series I do of Railway Judges, you could perfectly well have an avatar and AI producing words that sound like mine.
It is very scary. It is very scary. And I think for collectors and investors, it's a bit scary for them too. I mean, a lot of our collectors at Martin Stanmore that we speak to, they very much prefer things that come from traditional artists, not just sort of blue chip works, but also up and coming artists.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 8:41. We're going through the papers with Claire Muldoon and Pat Sharp. And Claire, let's have a look at the details that we now have, shall we, on the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day in May.
And I think this might be one of the most poignant yet. And on the backdrop of the issues that Gaza have and the war in Ukraine, etc., and indeed the persecution of Christians in Nigeria and Africa and beyond, and to celebrate something so peaceful, so disciplined in the end, and the end of something is going to be great. And the other lovely thing about it is it's going to be the last time that a lot of the VE veterans will actually be alive for.
What do you mean to celebrate something so peaceful?
Well, it ended, so peace began. From that point.
But you're right, Claire, it's such a poignant anniversary. I mean, it was so evident in Normandy last year.
Yes.
And the 80th anniversary there. I mean, we were with veterans, and I think there were 20 veterans that were able to make that trip to Normandy last year. And the year before, there'd been obviously a great number. So those numbers are dwindling all the time.
And 5 years ago, the celebrations were blighted, of course, because of COVID. We were slap bang in the middle of the COVID lockdown. And I think, you know, to have the 80th VE Day, first weekend in May, I think it's going to be beautiful. I think the pomp and the ceremony. Say what you want about the monarchy, say what you want about Britain as a union country, but we do pomp and ceremony very well. And I'm looking forward to these celebrations, if not only to get some time off.
I always look at these things, Pat, and I think if you and I were of an age where we had to take part in that, could we have done it? You like to think you could have, but my goodness me, what a life-changing experience it all would have been.
Yeah, so for conscription to be, you know, to be told you're going to go and fight, would we have? Well, I suppose we'd have to have done, because otherwise you would be absent without leave, wouldn't you?
I mean, I was talking to who was 17, he'd lied about his age. I was talking to him in Normandy for the D-Day landing anniversary in the summer, and he was saying that they were on the boat in the English Channel and they weren't even told where they were going to land or what was going to happen to them.
And what age was he, 17?
17, because
Imagine the fear.
And I said, were you scared? And he said, no, I was really excited.
Well, it's the fear of the unknown, really. They didn't know
what was ahead
But I
of
think
them.
now, with the way of the world and how many people in this country live, I think people would fear that it wouldn't be there, sort of, I can just grab a coffee on the way to work, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But remember, in those days, though, the temperature was such that no one actually knew what they were fighting for or where they were going to fight. And yet now there's talk about conscription to go and fight in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
But war has changed completely.
Yes.
The vista has changed completely. War has changed completely.
But these commemorations, we've got the details here. So it's 4-day celebrations from the 8th of May. So it'll kick off on the bank holiday Monday. The Cenotaph will be dressed in Union flags. There'll be a military procession, a fly past in London. Street parties, which will be lovely, held across the country. A special ceremony on HMS Belfast. And then a service of remembrance and thanksgiving at Westminster Abbey. So it just sounds like the most wonderful series of events.
Now, those people who are still alive and went through all of that well into their 90s, and the elderly, Pat, this is a situation that the older you get, the more you realise how important sleeping is. You're in bed a lot more through being ill and whatever. And it can be very difficult. A lot of people find it being in bed, getting into bed, getting out of bed, very, very difficult.
So 1 in 5 of us, Eamonn, older people, adults for such, suffer from insomnia. And now they reckon that lifting weights, I mean, aerobics, swimming, running, Pilates, all good, but lifting weights is the one thing that can really do you proud and make you sleep better. So do you lift weights?
No. And I do find it very difficult to get in and out of bed, and there are parts of me that I can tell you work and parts that don't work. But I can see how this is. It's all very well and good. People say, oh, you should do weightlifting and you should have these exercise classes. But if you have an impairment right from the start, it's difficult to see these things through. But I totally get why your body weight becomes something extraordinary, you know, to use your hands to move your body, and if your legs don't work and various things like that, it can be quite difficult. So
the headline here is bed lifts. So I'm not talking about you bringing a whole thing in and sitting here like this, but maybe just a dumbbell, just like this, just in each hand.
I'm in the market for some dumbbells.
There you go.
I'd like to incorporate some weightlifting into my routine. I like Pilates.
Okay.
But I don't do any weightlifting, and it is meant to have real benefits for you.
Do you know what I've always wondered about that, just as a wee cheap aside? I actually wondered why one's body weight doesn't actually use as weights. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Well, Ellie and I are completely opposite in terms of weights, right?
Stop.
And I just wondered why, like, if I couldn't use my own body as a weight.
I'm sure it could be arranged.
It's not worked yet.
Anyway, tell us about Generation Z. So they're changing the way they think about their degrees or what degrees they get, and this is because of the debt incurred at third-level standard education.
It makes sense.
You had a really interesting debate on your show earlier where you were debating school kids being able to leave at the age of 14.
Yeah.
Right, so now what we've found, when Tony Blair set up his government, he said that tertiary education should be available for all, and that really went against the whole ethos of apprenticeships, of, you know, the ability to, you know, go and do something that you really want to do at a decent university. I think university degrees have been minimised to such that they're not giving good value to the students that are paying money for them. If it's not Oxbridge or it's not Russell, I'm sorry, it's not a degree, right? So now Gen Zs are actually saying, for the first time, they're actually using some common sense, and they're saying, look, do we really want to be saddled with debt? We're reading today that the Labour government, quite rightly, have to put up the cost of university tuition fees, because on the back of that report, universities are losing £2,500 per year on domestic students. So they're now saying, well, look, I'm going to leave with straddled with £50,000 worth of debt for a 3 or 4 year degree, whether it be an arts degree, whether it be an underwater basket weaving degree, whether it be an art, and they will not get the return on that.
No, but where do you stand on what's going on in Scotland at the moment, this debate, and we've talked about this in the programme today, that the Conservative Party there are advocating that children should have the right to leave school from the age of 14.
A 14-year-old does not know its own mind. How can they say they do what they want to stop hormone treatments for children, right, because they can't make up their own mind? What on earth? Why on earth are they saying they can make up their mind at 14 to leave school?
Well, you and I are in agreement with this. I mean, we would advocate apprenticeships.
Absolutely.
And being able to use your skills, if you've got skills just with using your hands as opposed to your brain or whatever, well and good. But 14 is just too young.
Far too young.
You don't think you're young at 14, but you are.
Even the papers on the paper round, they're going to be heavy for a 14-year-old. The Sunday supplements, they'll never manage.
Oh, do you know that was the hardest job? That was the first job I ever had.
I agree.
Newspaper delivery.
Tell me about it.
And it was horrendous. It was child cruelty.
I know. I got told off putting the wrong paper in the wrong letterbox every day.
Dogs.
Yeah, dogs.
Dogs.
I've been a postman, was I? Terrible.
Lots to contend with, let's have a look at... Oh, can we finally do our woolly mice, please, Pat? I've been asked about this since the 6th.
Ellie's been waiting since it was dark this morning for this one.
Patiently for my woolly mice.
So it's a story today in the Mail. And when was the last time, Ellie, that you, being so young, saw a mammoth? Probably quite a while ago in telly or something, because they haven't been around. Yeah, 10,000 years since they roamed the Earth. And now scientists in their Dolly the sheep or whatever they used to do with that are trying to bring it back from extinction to make sure that we can all see a mammoth in our time. And they've made their first sort of inroad into this by well, they've got a mouse which is now woolly. So
yeah, I've seen it.
And you think this is quite cute, don't you?
No, I know you do think it's quite cute. This is just Frankenstein technology.
Exactly.
I think there's no need for it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible abuse thing, and for you to say, oh, it's lovely. Why is it lovely?
Well, they're very cute looking. If you're listening on the radio, imagine a woolly mammoth's fur on a tiny little mouse.
Yeah.
But why have they underpinned this by saying, and help stop planet warming? How on earth is that helping planet warming?
It's an excuse for everything.
Isn't
nowadays,
it?
Isn't it? It's ridiculous.
It's probably written by David Miliband, maybe.
Could well be. Which then we go from mice to beavers.
Who I also love.
Yeah, OK. So what do you love them here? Tell us why.
Damn fine day for furry pals who can run free in the wild, because beavers will be put back into the wild in just a few days in a landmark moment for British nature.
Because they're good for nature, aren't they, Claire?
Well, they build dams, but some farmers might say they're actually bad for the farms.
Oh.
Who knew you'd have to have a licence for a beaver? Did you know that, Ellie?
I didn't know you had to have a licence for a beaver.
Did you not? No.
Do you have to look after them? Do you have to be responsible for them?
Yeah, anyone wanting to release the mammals must obtain a licence and submit a beaver management plan.
Oh,
Look at the headline, Viva la Beaver.
Yeah,
lots of things going on. I mean, my goodness me, I didn't think it was a licence to have a beaver, and a management plan for a beaver. There we go, unleash the beaver.
I didn't know that, but people are nervous about this. Concerns that crops could be damaged.
But they're huge things. I mean, Eamonn, you don't like them at all. You really don't like them at all.
No, I don't see the point of them, really.
They're an ecosystem, are they not?
They are part of the ecosystem.
Look, we can run the ecosystem. Why do you all fall for this? Oh, if we let 2 beavers out into the countryside, they'll solve flooding in the area. Of course they bloomin' won't. People believe all this rubbish. But,
I think they're very good for the waterways, Eamonn, and they're very cute.
All right, good luck to you. You have one in your back garden.
Beaver or woolly mouse?
Oh, do you know what, beaver, I think. And they're here in Britain now, so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
What else we got here?
I don't have any other stories. I'm sure Claire does.
Got the list. Oh, Lent. Pat, what are you doing for Lent?
What am I doing for
anything?
Lent? I'm probably just working, just DJing and stuff, to be honest with you. I've got lots of gigs this month, yeah.
So you're not giving up anything?
So you don't feel motivated to deprive yourself?
I'm not giving up DJing, no.
There's a lot to be said for, instead of mortifying yourself, i.e. giving up of something during Lent, actually to do something a bit more positive.
Exactly.
That's what Eamonn's doing.
Someone said on Twitter, actually, a chap from Glasgow, who's a brilliant guy, Mark Miller, he was saying that he was recommended by a priest to give a compliment every day, right?
Yeah.
Which is a really nice thing to do. You take the time, you think about it, and then you give it back out instead of denying yourself, which is always good to do. But let's face it, we can do it on Ash Wednesday, today, day of fasting and abstinence. Good Friday, day of fasting and abstinence as well, where we don't eat meat. And have one meal a day, and then just go through Lent. But go through Lent with presence more than anything, you know, be dignified about it.
Presence, not as in presence.
No tea in it. Have the presence of it.
And add something to your life as well. I know a lot of people just give to charity.
Yes, like give up, instead of having a coffee, put the money aside and save the money up and then give it to a charity of your choice.
But interested to see who still practices Lent anymore. Do young people, is it part of their life? I suspect not. But
me and my friends would.
When I was young and at school, it was just like you were made to. That was it.
Yeah, you just did chocolate. Always chocolate or crisps.
Well, let us
know.
Are you still doing it? gbnews.com/you'll say. If you are practicing Lent, what are you giving up? Or what are you adding to your life?
We're giving up these 2 right now. Thank you very much indeed. Been absolutely brilliant having you about today. Thank you. And we say hello, good morning, and welcome to the weatherman, Aidan McGivern.
Woo! A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, western England and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed each way between Eastriggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. In Tyrone, the A45 is closed each way at New Mills after an accident last night. On the M4 in Berkshire, there's a lane closed westbound. Someone's broken down between junction 6 and 7 near Slough, causing delays. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In East Sussex, the A259 remains closed eastbound. And on Grand Junction Road in Brighton, towards the A23 Palace Pier roundabout because of an unsafe building causing queues. Red funnel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Southampton and both East Cowes and West Cowes because of poor visibility, and there are some cancelled Brittany ferry sailings between Portsmouth and Le Havre, also because of poor visibility. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of two big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have two prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation.
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump claims President Zelensky is ready to negotiate.
Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible.
It comes as reports suggest America's NATO membership hangs in the balance.
Well, that's as the Defence Secretary prepares to meet his counterpart in Washington today in a bid to bridge the transatlantic divide.
Well, as far as Ukraine is concerned, there were certainly very positive messages from President Trump in his speech to Congress. But now, of course, the job is with John Healey to convince the Americans we're serious about defence.
JD Vance is forced to deny he disrespected British armed forces, with some accusing him of saying Britain hasn't fought a war in 40 years. Nigel Farage had this to say.
JD Vance is wrong. Wrong. For 20 years in Afghanistan, pro rata, our size against America's, we spent the same amount of money, we put the same number of men and women in, and we suffered the same losses. We stood by America all through those 20 years, putting in exactly the same contribution. And all right, they may be 6 times bigger, but we did our bit. So on this one, JD is wrong.
Farmers in crisis. 4 in 10 of them now say they expect to go out of business in the next 5 years.
Viewers dubbed Meghan Markle fake following the release of her new cooking show. Raises the question, can she ever change public perception?
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
A 4-day celebration to commemorate the 80th anniversary of VE Day has been announced, including a concert, flypast and a special service at Westminster Abbey.
Lent has started, with today being Ash Wednesday. The first day, the start of 40 days of reflection and sacrifice. We're asking you this morning, are you giving up anything?
And a community plagued by seagulls. Residents in Eltham are forced to take cover on Bin Day over fears that they could be splattered by bird excrement.
This is a community blighted not by plague, not by locusts, not by drought, but by seagulls, and they come in their thousands. In the next few minutes, I'll be speaking to the founder of a local campaign trying to tackle this issue.
Big differences once again up and down the UK through today. Wet and windy in the far north, dry and sunny in the far south. Full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you. However you're watching, wherever you're listening from, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Thanks for getting in touch today. What are folks saying, Ellie?
Oh, we're talking about Lent. And John, you've got a tough 40 days ahead of you. He's giving up alcohol, bread and alcohol for Lent. He says, I love buttered toast in the morning and I enjoy an alcoholic beverage in the evening. Well, don't we all, John? You're a better person than me. I'm cutting out sugar and I'm already scared. It's a good job we're off next week because I think I could be a bit ratty.
Well, sugar's in everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's gonna be
I don't know
very
how strict to go on this, actually, because there's sugar in everything. There's sugar in bread.
Look, you know, when Christ was in the desert, when he was fasting and doing these things, he didn't say to himself, I don't know how serious I should go or be about this, did he?
Look, I'm trying, and I think Jesus would appreciate that.
Yeah, he might.
But I'll go for definitely refined sugar, and we'll work it out from there. Jack says, I don't get Lent. Not many actually go to church these days anyway.
Okay.
I think that is a growing portion of people.
The time, 4 minutes past 9 o'clock on this Wednesday morning and overnight, Donald Trump gave the State of the Nation address, and he confirmed President Zelensky from Ukraine is willing to sign a deal with America on those minerals we were hearing about last week.
Well, this morning, the Mail Online are also reporting that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine.
It's also reported the president is planning to relinquish leadership of NATO. What he's going to do, apparently, is urge Britain and France to take on more responsibility.
Well, in the early hours of the morning over here, the president gave an address to the US Congress. GB News' Evan Dale has the latest.
America is back.
It was always going to be an address made for the media.
And our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
But moments into the speech, it was interrupted by Democrat Representative Al Green. It then wasn't long before the president took aim towards the previous administration.
And under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In the midst of reeling off his administration's progress to date, he hailed the beginning of a revolution.
Free speech in America is back. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world.
President Trump also brought up the contentious issue of tariffs.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one.
He also announced plans for a defense dome similar to that of Israel.
I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland.
And then came the news on Ukraine that everybody was waiting for.
Today I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
Donald Trump also made a teenage brain cancer survivor's dream come true.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Evan Dale, GB News.
Well, our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, joins us live now. Good to see you, Mark. And there's a lot to get through, isn't there? A 100-minute address, but very positive sounds from Trump on Ukraine.
Yes, in capital cities around the world, of course, leaders would have been waiting to see exactly what Donald Trump was going to say on Ukraine. And I think there would be collective sighs of relief that actually the messaging from Donald Trump there was very positive. He was, welcoming the latest messages that were coming from Volodymyr Zelensky, talking in positive terms about the need to go after a peace deal and absolutely his commitment to sign that mineral deal as well. Now it's a turn on the diplomatic front of the Defence Minister, John Healey, our Defence Secretary, heading off to Washington to meet his US counterpart. And he'll be trying to convince the Americans that, yes, the UK and its European allies are serious about stepping up in terms of defence. You're looking there at pictures of John Healey on HMS Prince of Wales yesterday. That was a visit by His Majesty the King onto HMS Prince of Wales, which is about to embark on a very important first operational tour down to the Indo-Pacific and Japan. And that is part of the UK showing to the world that it's back in the game, that it is taking its role in terms of its international partnerships and defence commitments seriously. So that will be important for the Americans. We don't know if the Americans are going to participate in that carrier strike group down to the Indo-Pacific, but the previous strike group that went down to the Indo-Pacific on HMS Queen Elizabeth, the Americans provided F-35 combat jets jets on that mission, and also some ships in support as well.
Mark, where does the special relationship stand now, in the sense that we've got this story this morning that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine, because that would suggest a complete breakdown of trust.
Yeah. Well, we know, of course, that America has suspended all military aid to Ukraine, so it was perhaps a next logical step for them as well, to, as they sort of ratchet up the pressure on Volodymyr Zelensky, because it is, as far as the Trump administration is concerned, all about getting him round the negotiating table to talk peace. So the next step would be, I think, logically perhaps not giving them access to the sort of targeting information that they require for those long-range missiles that they've been supplied by the US, the UK and others.
In favour of Russia and what Russia would want out of all of this. How much do they have to be seen to be, if you can say this, playing fair?
Well, I think what President Trump's administration would say is that they are playing fair. You heard some of that from Donald Trump in the Oval Office in that car crash of a meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday, when he was saying that, look, he couldn't be coming down on one side or the other. If he is to play the role of honest broker and to get the trust of both sides, he can't be, just for the sake of political theatre, going after Vladimir Putin and condemning him at every turn. We've had 3 years of that since the invasion in 2022 into Ukraine proper. World leaders have constantly condemned Russia. They have cut and isolated Russia. They cut Russia off and have refused to engage with them in any way. We are in a new operating theatre now, in that President Trump wants to do it differently. He wants to get both sides around the table. He wants to talk peace. Let's see if it'll work. It might not, but he wants to give it a try.
A long way to go. Mark, thanks for your analysis on that. Appreciate it. We're going to go out now and get analysis from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine is in, where is she? Westminster. Oh, Downing Street. Downing Street. Very good. Why are you Downing Street for, Catherine?
Yes, well, good morning from Downing Street. Well, really, because this hopefully breakthrough that we've had, or may have, between Zelensky and Trump has been in quite large part engineered by the man in that building there, our own Prime Minister. Since that horrendous blow-up in the Oval Office, there have been very intensive efforts between the Prime Minister, Emmanuel Macron of France, and others to bring those two back together to talk about peace. So the minerals deal, it looks like it could be signed imminently, though some worrying signals suggesting that America might want to try to get more from Ukraine on that. Also, that Ukraine still doesn't want to sign it without those security guarantees, but certainly a sign of progress. But the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, today has to give her plans for the spring statement to the Office of Budget Responsibility. And the reason why this matters is that simply there's not much money around. The Chancellor had that big budget back in October. They said it was a once in a Parliament event. They said that they weren't going to be coming back with anything as bad as that again. However, the world has changed, hasn't it, since Donald Trump came in? We are having to raise defence spending very significantly. Our fiscal headroom has gone. So it's sounding like the government is now planning some big cuts, particularly to the welfare budget, which frankly has ballooned and is pretty much out of control, really, and not sustainable. So they're looking at how they can fix that to get people back to work. That will also, of course, have a knock-on effect on the NHS. They're also looking at big cuts to the civil service. They want to make the civil service much more efficient, a bit like perhaps what's happening in the United States. So obviously will be done in a very different manner. But look, the war in Ukraine, for all the people that think that it doesn't affect us, the instability in Europe, the not knowing whether America has our back or not is going to cost us. We are going to have to spend a lot more money in defence. That's money that's going to have to come from somewhere else.
Appreciate it, Catherine. Thank you very much indeed.
Now it's the final week to see how you could win one of two amazing prize bundles.
It all ends on Friday.
All ends on Friday, exactly. Time is ticking. Get involved.
So
there's just 2 days left to grab your chance to become one of 2 big winners, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Next, live from Lancashire, the Seagulls are descending there in huge numbers. What can be done about it? Find out after this.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Getting into medicine at a very early age, you had an interest when you were really, really young, didn't you?
I did. I decided to go to medicine when I was 8. And that was based on the stories my father used to tell me about my grandfather, who I never met, because my grandfather died when he was 11.
Yeah.
And he was in the military, and he was stationed up in the Himalayas. And he was a doctor in the military. And not only did he serve in the military, but he also served his patients. And he served them to the degree where he would go out and he'd take them supplies, and he'd really look after them and make sure that they were not just well, but could live and survive. And it was on a day when he was out there helping his patients. There was a storm up in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And he was out there taking blankets and clothes and food up to them. And on the way back, as he was coming down the Himalayas, there was a landslide which took his Jeep over the edge, and he perished in that. So he gave his life to his service. And it was these stories about my grandfather, what he did and how he helped people, that really inspired me to follow in his footsteps. Not necessarily to go into the military, but to go into medicine.
But he's left a wonderful legacy, because fast forward, you came to this country when you was 4, and you've studied medicine.
Yep.
You do, we were talking earlier about DNA. You're looking at DNA, looking at people's DNA. You can do profiles on people, predict. Well, you can actually say with some accuracy where they've lived in the past, what jobs they've done, and what medically may happen to them in the future.
Yeah. And I think, over the last, we've been looking at the gene. There was a Human Genome Project last century which finished.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No, I know a lot of you have problems with seagulls or flying rats, as they would call. And in Altham and Lancashire, Altham's between Accrington and Burnley, roughly. And there, people are taking cover as these seagulls plague the village in Altham.
Well, fed-up homeowners claim that they're unable to sit in their gardens over fears that they could be splattered by bird poo. Not very
But
nice.
why is the question? Why are they attracted to Altham? Let's go to our woman, Sophie Reaper, this morning. Sophie, can you tell us, can you enlighten us more?
Well, Eamonn, you asked why they're attracted to Altham, and the answer is right here behind us. It's the Winnie Hill landfill site, and it is bin day today, so we're prepared to take cover if we need to. Joining me is Gary. He is the founder of the Tipped Over the Edge campaign, a group of local residents who are extremely concerned about this seagull problem. Gary, talk to me about this issue with seagulls, because for our viewers at home, they may be thinking this is dozens of seagulls, perhaps hundreds of seagulls. It's not, is it? We're talking thousands of gulls.
Hi, good morning, Sophie. Yeah, we are. You don't expect to see gulls in this, area. You expect to see them at Seaside. We started to get a problem with gulls in this area about October 2023, just a handful initially. And then by April in 2024, we started to see, a couple of thousand gulls above our homes, dropping the bird mess as you'd expect. By round about August, September of last year, we were looking somewhere in the region of about 5,000 gulls. And we're coming into breeding season soon, so that we could quite easily see these gulls doubling in numbers, probably even more than that.
Now, I should say that the site is right here behind us. You live perhaps 200-300 yards away.
Yep.
As a local resident, what would you like to see happen to try and tackle this issue?
Well, we've been in discussions with the site operator Suez and the Environment Agency for some time now. In fact, we've got a meeting tonight with them again. What we want to see is we want to see this site closed, full stop. There's no reason to be putting landfill sites like this with household waste dumps beside residential areas. We understand the need for landfill, but certainly not in a residential area where it's impacting the community in the way which has been impacting us.
And I will say as well, for our viewers and listeners, there is quite a pungent smell coming from the site as well, isn't there, Gary?
I mean, to be fair, they just started tipping this morning, so this is quite mild at the moment. You can imagine what this is going to be like by 3 o'clock this afternoon.
And we are hearing, and I would like you to explain this, we're hearing, is it cannon fire this morning?
Yeah, basically under the licence permit that they operate from the Environment Agency, what happens is they set off burst scarers, so they're basically gas cannons, and they use like handguns to try and scare the gulls away from the tip face. What it does basically is it just makes the problem worse for us because it sends them up into the air, they go out into the community, and then you've got thousands of gulls pooping on your cars, pooping on your houses, pooping in your gardens, pooping on your kids.
Gary, it sounds truly horrendous. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I just want to read out some rights of reply that we've had. The Environment Agency has said, we're taking action to ensure the operator Suez addresses issues at Winnie Hill landfill site and recognise the distress the odour and gulls are causing to members of the community. We will continue to carry out regulatory inspections and keep working with Suez to ensure the site is compliant with its environmental permits. GB News also reached out to Suez and they said, we are a responsible operator and recognise the inconvenience the birds cause when they are here. We would like to assure residents that we are actively working to deter the seagulls and will continue to take advice from Natural England to alleviate the problems for our neighbours. But clearly, for the local residents, this is a major, major problem.
Thanks, Sophie. Thank you. You keep your head low.
Yeah, brace for cover, Sophie. Thank you.
And cover being important. Cover, those white splats.
Yeah, don't want any of that on that lovely black coat.
We've got Bev, we've got Andrew here. And what have you got for us today, guys?
We're talking about VE Day because it's the 80th anniversary. We've got lots of details. We're talking to the pageant master, which will be very interesting. And this is going to be a really important VE Day, isn't it? Because 80th anniversary, the veterans, it'll be the last big hurrah for some of those veterans, won't it?
Yeah. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it, those 4 days?
4 days.
I mean, it's a packed schedule.
Yeah. Do you think Rishi Sunak, if he's invited, will bother to turn up?
I hope so.
Bearing in mind he sloped off from the last lot.
Well, we've also got Andy Cook coming in from the Centre for Social Justice about a report that says that 2/3 of young women in this country are scared of young men.
Isn't that awful?
Ooh. So I really want to understand why. What is it about young men that young women are finding so scary, and what might have gone wrong with young men that they think it's okay to scare young women?
These radio shows and things that are out there talking about men's dominance or men should fight back and whatever, but
yeah,
that's no place to be, is it?
We're going to dig into all that.
Interesting watch, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
6 o'clock tomorrow. We'll do it all again. Thanks for watching today.
Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another frosty and foggy start for some southern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine in those areas by the afternoon. Meanwhile, it's cloudy and it's windy across northern parts of the UK, from North Wales into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Many places here dry, actually, but across central and western Scotland and the southern uplands, we're going to see further outbreaks of rain, most persistent for the northwest Highlands, where across northern and northwest Scotland there will be gales. So unsettled in the far north, but a beautiful afternoon once any fog has cleared across much of England and Wales. Long spells of sunshine and feeling a tad warmer compared with recent days, 15 or even 16 Celsius in that increasingly strong March sun. Now, as we end the day, the rain is starting to ease off across the northwest of Scotland, but it will remain damp over the Highlands and Grampians. Mostly dry for southern and eastern Scotland, much of Northern Ireland as well, albeit cloudy and staying breezy. England and Wales, meanwhile, lighter winds, clearer skies, so once again, after dark, temperatures are going to start to fall away. And that means, once again, a few mist patches forming across southern counties of England and Wales, but I think less widespread compared with this morning. The fog tending to be a bit more patchy in nature. Clear skies, though, for much of England and Wales. A bit more of a breeze by dawn, and so frost a bit more patchy as well, rather than widespread. Scotland and Northern Ireland keep the generally cloudy and windy weather, so a milder start here, and further damp spells into the northwest of Scotland. But that tends to peel away by Thursday afternoon, so that many places dry for a time. Best of the sunshine across much of England, especially towards the east, but thickening cloud for Wales, western England and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and some showery rain turning up later. That's going to spread more widely into Friday and the weekend.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Dumfries and Galloway, the A75 is closed each way between East Riggs and Gretna after a lorry caught fire. In Tyrone, the A45 remains closed each way at New Mills after an accident last night. In Oxfordshire, the A34 is partly blocked northbound at the Milton interchange, causing queues. In London, on the North Circular, the inside lane is closed eastbound, where a lorry's broken down just after the Coney Hatch interchange, causing queues. In Hampshire, the A3 is partly blocked northbound by an accident just before the Berriton turn-off, causing queues. Red funnel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Southampton, both East Cowes and West Cowes because of poor visibility. There are also some cancelled Brittany ferry sailings between Portsmouth and Le Havre, and disruption to some flights at Southampton Airport because of fog. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And the BAFTA-winning actress, Daisy May Cooper, isn't holding back about what she thinks about Shakespeare. She thinks it's time to ditch the lot.
Well, comparing his plays to studying EastEnders in 600 years' time, she says that kids would be better off learning from TV dramas. But is she onto something, or is the Bard still a class act?
Sometimes it's better not to say anything, isn't it? Anyway, joining us to discuss this is the lifestyle journalist and parenting expert, Annette Kello.